Yo legends! Welcome to Fanfiction Legend. Grab your headphones because today's story is about to hit different. Disclaimer: I do not claim ownership of this story. All rights belong to the original creators. Konoha, Tsunade, I am the Hokage. Chapter 1, Hokage System? But I and 039 am a Genin. Chapter 1, Hokage System? But I'm a Genin! Konoha Ninja School. A group of candidates were waiting outside the house. There was a black-haired boy taking the test in the room, and the third Hokage and several ninja school teachers were observing and grading him. In the field, he carried out each test item skillfully. Not long after, physical skills, excellent. The art of clones, excellent. Transformation technique, excellent overall. Upstairs, Hiruzen, wearing the Hokage hat, announced the results one by one, then stood up, picked up a forehead protector, and walked towards the students below. He handed him the forehead protector. After investigation by the school, you are allowed to graduate early. Kyouhiko, from today on, you are a Genin. Yes. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Jingyan took it respectfully and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. After more than a year of unremitting efforts, I finally reached the threshold for early graduation. Almost at the same time, a voice rang out. Congratulations on your successful appointment as Hokage. The Hokage system will serve you wholeheartedly. This sound system? What the hell! I traveled through time more than a year ago, practiced very hard for a whole year, and worked hard enough to graduate early, so you came here, was surprised and delighted. According to the memory of his previous incarnation, Kyouhiko's ancestors were once members of the Senju clan. Later, the first Hokage advocated intermarriage within the village, and they have been separated since then. He is the third generation, however. His grandmother didn't have any special physique or bloodline limit, and his parents were also quite ordinary. At most they were healthier, but unfortunately they died on the battlefield in the Rain Country. It is even more ordinary when it comes to Jingyan, and there is nothing special about it at the moment therefore. After traveling through time, he realized that only by working hard and struggling like Kai could he survive in the cruel ninja world did not expect. Today, the system was awakened. Wait, the Hokage system? What do you mean? I'm not the Hokage. Jingyan was confused. Then he looked down at the forehead protector, then looked up at the hat on Hiruzen's head. I haven't become Hokage yet. Kyouhiko, put on the ninja forehead protector. Yes. Jingyan woke up as if from a dream. He tied the forehead guard on his head, and then another reminder sounded. Winning people's hearts is a necessary ability for a Hokage. Personally put the forehead protector on the graduating Genin. You have gained his full trust. Reward: increase the level of instant body skill by 1. What? After Jingyan confirmed that he was not hallucinating, he was deeply shocked. Fully trust. I definitely believe it. I put on a forehead protector myself and I can get some benefits. Is the system a fool? He was stunned for a while, then came to his senses. This system? I'm afraid it was tailor-made for Hokage, but I don't know if I time traveled to the wrong place, or it was looking for the wrong person and it fell on him who is just a Genin. However, I am still in the examination room and must remain calm! Jingyan collected his thoughts and bowed respectfully. Thank you, Hokage-sama. This thank you is sincere. If the system really falls into the hands of Hiruzen, it would be a waste. Given the personality of this old guy Hiruzen, would he be able to use the system even if he had it? I don't have that ability! It's better to give it to us. Haha, I'm rooting for you, keep going. Hiruzen patted Kyouhiko's shoulder. Then he started calling the roll, calling the next person to come in. Jingyan went out and saw strange or familiar faces passing by, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. More than a decade later, only a few of these people were able to stand out. The ninja world is cruel. Without blood limit, you can't perform secret techniques! Over the past dozen months, Jingyan has come to understand how difficult life is for ordinary people. Work hard and strive. But no matter what, he just has a better foundation and meets the standards for early graduation, but he can't be compared with Kakashi, who has already graduated. As long as things are normal, Kai is his best role model. Fortunately, I am now considered a member of the cheating group, and I graduated early, so I have enough time to practice and become stronger. You can't learn advanced things in school. Naruto System. Although the process is strange, the result is good. After leaving the examination room, Jingyan tried several commands and finally used panel to summon up an illusory panel. There are familiar words on it. Name, Yashamine Kyouhiko. Age, 7 years old. Bloodline limit, none. Skill: transfiguration skilled, clone skilled, substitution proficient, instantaneous movement master level teleportation technique. Jingyan suppressed the shock and excitement in his heart. According to the system's classification, the proficiency of ninjutsu is divided into 5 levels: entry, skilled, proficient, master, and grandmaster. The 2 ninjutsu that he spent the most time on were the instant body flickering jutsu and the substitution jutsu, no doubt about it, but in the past 6 months his teleportation technique has not improved at all. But now, various insights into the art of teleportation emerged in his mind. I see. The master-level instant body flickering technique requires more subtle use of muscles, strength, and chakra. Use your strength in detail. This is the difference between mastery and mastery. Jingyan had some insights. This sudden realization was magical, as if he had practiced it thousands of times and could easily perform the master-level teleportation technique. If I want to improve to the master level of teleportation technique by practicing on my own, it may take at least several years of practice. It's so powerful. So, the question now is how to maximize the use of the system without bloodline limits or secret techniques. If Jingyan wants to change his fate and not become a mediocre person in the ninja world war, the thing he can rely on most is the system in front of him. All the previous events are enough to prove that it is a rigid program with a lot of room for maneuver. If I were the Hokage, what would I do? Jingyan's brain was working rapidly. The previous reward was win the hearts of the people, balance the forces within the village, and make the village stronger and more prosperous. Contribute in the war. Handle the daily affairs and tasks of the village. Jingyan summarized several points. As a genin, the other points are simply impossible for him to accomplish. All he can do now is to win people's hearts and carry out tasks. Jingyan pondered, and then, after leaving the school, he began to try out the master-level teleportation technique. Meticulous control. Muscles, chakra subsequently. Whoosh! Exclamation! In an instant, Jingyan's figure flashed, and the next moment he was already at another place on the street. So fast. My physique hasn't improved, but the effect of using the body flash technique is 2 or 3 times greater than before. There was a flash of heat in Jingyan's eyes. If the masters are like this, if they can be promoted to grandmaster, they will be able to soar, right? But he could feel that although this ability had been integrated into himself, in actual use, his eyesight and consciousness had not yet adapted to the enhanced speed, resulting in errors in his judgment of distance and speed. Practice! Exclamation! Jingyan ran to the suburbs where he usually trained, speeding along at lightning speed. But as he ran past a bathhouse, a white-haired man turned his head and looked outside. Then he saw a young man running past quickly. What a great speed! This kind of instant body movement technique, who? He immediately became interested, but hesitated and looked at the situation in the hall. Finally, he turned around and chased after Jingyan. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Kai, my friend forever. Chapter 2. Kai, my friend forever. No wonder Chidori needs the Sharingan to unleash its full power. Jingyan's current teleportation technique also has this problem after using it. My eyesight and body can't keep up. Although not as deadly as Chidori, it still affects the display of strength. Solution: or enhance your eyesight and let your vision keep up with your body. or just let your body keep up with the speed. The former requires talent, and Minato Namikaze is one of the best. Kai is the best example of the latter. Keep practicing! Jingyan looked determined and began to use the body flickering technique, combining punches, kicks, and kunai attacks. In the beginning extremely fast. Later, his speed slowly slowed down, but his skills became more and more powerful. Above, Jiraiya was sitting astride a tree, using ninjutsu to hide among the leaves, a look of shock on his face. As one of the three ninjas, of course he could understand what the little boy under the tree was training for. Control the speed. The opponent's speed has been very strong, but the faster the speed, the better. If it is beyond one's control, it can easily become a weakness in battle. His body flash technique is very powerful. Some of the Genin may not be as good as the boy below in terms of the art of instant movement. But this was not the main point that surprised Jiraiya. What really surprised him was the other party actually realized that the faster the better, but the speed should be increased while still being in control. Controlling speed is often more important than increasing speed. This seemingly simple truth was only realized by many ninjas in life and death battles. It's amazing. Another Watergate? Jiraiya's eyes were complicated. It wasn't the first time he had seen the boy. In fact, Jingyan would pass by the road near the bathhouse every time he exercised. There were several times before when he was almost exposed by Jingyan, but because of this, he had a good impression of this boy. Work hard and be diligent. He trained every day without stopping. But what surprised him most was the other party's thinking. Jingyan is not the only one working hard. Jiraiya had the impression that there was also a boy in green clothes with extravagant attire who was also working very hard, but the two were training in completely different directions. The one who focuses on physical skills, and what is in front of us. Since they met, he has only practiced physical skills, teleportation skills, and substitution skills. He has a strong goal in mind and does not practice blindly. Now, after learning the instant body movement technique without any teacher and working hard to break through it, he continued to study on his own and began to practice the trick of controlling speed. This kind of awareness is not possessed by many people. Genius. Just like Watergate back then. Jiraiya sat on the tree, staring at the young man sweating below, thoughts and memories flooding into his mind. As a Sannin, he was deliberately hiding, which was not something that Jingyan could detect at the moment. Until the evening, Jingyan lay under the tree exhausted. He looked at the swaying shadows of the trees above him, blinked, and then under the moonlight, there's a shadow of a tree that seems a little off. Jingyan sat up. Who? Whoosh! In the night sky, it seemed as if a bird flew away and disappeared among the shadows of the trees. Konoha Ninja School. A group of students who have become ninjas are sitting in the classroom. The teacher hasn't come yet. Everyone leaned on the windows and looked at the children who were training hard below, and they were all very happy. Except for two people. One is Might Guy. He was huddled in a corner, doing a one-handed handstand to exercise his body. Compared with the people around him, he had a kind of beauty that was full of performance art. The other one is Jingyan. He was looking at Kay. Finally, Kai couldn't hold it anymore. In the past, Jingyan was a marginal person in the class. After traveling through time, he focused all his attention on training and becoming stronger. He had no time to think about his personal connections and was quite low-key in the class. My relationship with Might Guy can only be described as average. They know each other's name and appearance. Therefore, Kyouhiko-kun, did I disturb you with my exercise? Kai was a little reserved. Jingyan shook his head. No, I just admire you. Admire me? Kai was surprised. Then he stood up straight and sat next to him, his face showing excitement and disbelief, but also a little self-abasement, and said, Are you trying to make fun of me? I almost failed the exam to graduate early. At least it's over, isn't it? Jingyan disagrees. Then, he said seriously, Kai, I have observed you. Although your ninjutsu talent is not good and your comprehension is average, he only talked about shortcomings. Kai's face became more bitter as he listened. Follow closely, but you have perseverance and determination that no one else has, and you are not afraid of people's judgment. This is also a kind of talent. Kai, you are definitely a hardworking genius. A hardworking genius. Matt Kai was stunned. This was the first time in his life that someone other than his father said he was a genius. He couldn't help feeling a little shy. I am not a genius. Why not? Hokage-sama said that perseverance is the strongest talent, but it is difficult for most people to possess it. Look in the classroom, besides you, who else is exercising? Jingyan whispered. Kai observes for a week. It really doesn't. Everyone was very idle, except for Jingyan in front of him, whose fingers were still flexibly controlling the kunai, and the other hand seemed to be practicing hand seals in addition. The female ninja named Yuhai Kurenai. She also sat in her seat and did not join the noisy crowd. Kai looked around and finally looked at Jingyan curiously. Hokage-sama really said that? Is this the point? Of course, Saruto by Hiruzen never said that. It was the future Hokage Ryamine Kyouhiko who said it! Jingyan calmed his mind and gave up the idea of making a quick buck. At this moment, Might Guy suddenly hugged Jingyan. But I am very grateful to you, Jingyan. You are the second person besides my father who has recognized me since I was a child. As he said this, he burst into tears. Even though Jingyan was usually calm, he couldn't help but be slightly surprised at this moment. This transformation, I was caught off guard! His crying attracted the attention of everyone. This was the first time I saw such a scene, and it was quite rare. Everyone stopped making fun of the lower grade students below and looked over here in unison. Jingyan looked around and felt that he was quite socially dead. What's even more painful is, he paid a price but got no reward, which made him look like a clown. Kai was crying. He is reflecting. The two people's joys and sorrows are not the same. A woman's voice broke the weird and awkward scene and also attracted the attention of others. Kai-kun. Excuse me, who is the first one? Yup. Who is the first one? Everyone is curious. Kai stopped crying. The eyes of the people around them were all on them. He was not ashamed at all, but was extremely proud and said, of course it's my eternal rival, Haddock Kakashi. Kakashi. When everyone heard this name, they were first in awe, then in doubt. Huh? You then comes ha ha ha. Except for Zixi Rihong and Jingyan, the whole audience burst into laughter. Tusk, I can also say that Kakashi is my eternal rival. Ha ha ha. I'm also Kakashi's rival. Me too. The classroom is filled with a cheerful atmosphere. Kakashi graduated at the age of 5 and became a Chunin at the age of 6. The one in front of me at the age of 7, he graduated and became a Genin, which is considered excellent, but obviously not in the same league. How dare he flatter himself and say that he is the eternal rival? Kai was silent. Jingyan patted his shoulder and gave him comfort and affirmation with a sincere tone. If you don't get any reward, it must be because you are not sincere enough, and so increase the dosage! If you strive for first place, you may get second or third place. If you aim for second or third place, you can only reach fourth or fifth place or even lower. Kai, believe in yourself. You must be Kakashi's eternal rival. Kyouhiko-kun. Might Guy hugged Jingyan, but he didn't cry at this moment. He was more excited and happy. What is a confidant? This is the one! Father, finally someone understands me. As Might Guy laughed, tears streamed down his face without any hesitation. Jingyan sighed inwardly. Guy's goal is Kakashi, but I originally aimed at the future Guy. Everyone has a bright future. He was feeling emotional. The psychological construction of a ninja is also an extremely important part of the work of a Hokage. You have strengthened the heart of a Genin and inspired his endless fighting spirit. Reward. Your basic physical skills are improved. Basic Taijutsu Technique was thinking, and a lot of knowledge emerged in his mind again, all of which were techniques of using force with fists and feet, most of which were techniques of using force with legs. He became more and more certain. The reward is closely related to the impact of the event and the other party's existing capabilities such as yesterday's reward, Jingyan gained his complete trust, so he upgraded his strongest telekinesis technique. As for Kai, his best qualities at the moment are his strong body and physical skills. End of this chapter. Chapter 3 Kakashi, does this count as repeating a grade? Chapter 3 Kakashi, does this count as repeating a grade? Not long after, the teacher came. He pulled out a piece of paper and began reading out the class combinations. First shift, second shift, team 3, Might Guy, Genma Shiranui, and Nibisu. The teacher above is still reporting. Genma Shiranui and Nibisu, who were laughing before, finally couldn't laugh anymore. Finally, I heard Jingyan's name. Team 7, Ryamine Kyouhiko and Uchiha. Uchiha looked at Jingyan and blinked. Fortunately, it was just one of them. Although Jingyan and Kai both worked very hard and should be quite strong, the sparks that collided between them just now were really too much for the young Uchiha to accept. The ninja school teacher continued to report. Team 8 Seurhong became anxious and many more. Why just the two of them? Jingyan looked at Uchiha and whispered, "Don't worry, I'll ask you when we go out later." Okay." Seurhong nodded, suppressing the doubts in her heart. Outside. "Sensei, why is there only 2 people in Team 7? Normally, there is a leading Genin and a team of 3, right?" Jingyan said. The teacher of the ninja school was also embarrassed and scratched his head and said, "I don't know about this either. You should know when you meet the leading Genin this afternoon." What? Uchiha was completely confused and had no idea what was going on. The ninja school teacher quickly ran away, leaving only Jingyan and Uchiha staring at each other. This time they were dumbfounded, of course. Jingyan had a guess in his heart, but he was not sure whether it was correct. There is a young genius who is unlucky and under pressure. Although he became a chunin last year, his personality and style make it impossible for him to handle the relationship with his teammates well. Kakashi headache, is it him? At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, each class gathered in the ninja school. Downstairs, the remaining ninjas who had not yet graduated were attending classes, and they needed to wait for the leading ninja to arrive. Jingyan sat in his seat, thinking about the future direction. The system's mechanisms have already been figured out. It seems that being on the same team with Kakashi has some benefits. Just I don't know who the leading Genin is. Is that Minato Namikaze as he thought? He unconsciously twirled his kunai. At this point, Jiraiya finally couldn't hold it in any longer. Kyouhiko-kun, I have something I want to ask you. She was 1 or 2 years older than Jingyan and they were not in the same class, so they were not very familiar with each other, but since we are teammates in the future, we still need to get to know each other. Kyouhiko stopped the kunai. What happened? Are you practicing the flexibility of your fingers? Uchiha pointed curiously at the kunai flying like flowers on Jingyan's fingers. Jingyan was slightly stunned, then burst into laughter. I'm just used to it. Habitsihong nodded and said nothing more, but there was a hint of respect in her eyes when she looked at Jingyan. Developing a habit requires years of training, which must involve hardships and bitterness that she cannot understand. No wonder he and Might Guy have something in common. She was imagining it to her heart's content. Jingyan didn't know what the little girl was thinking. He was just thinking, will getting closer to others help you to get benefits? Not a moment later, dong dong. There was a knock on the door. The next moment, the door opened. Jingyan looked up and almost laughed out loud. The masked silver-haired boy outside the door walked in with empty eyes and sat down with a stiff expression, pretending to be calm. Uchiha opened her mouth wide. She blinked, a look of disbelief on her face. Then you're not our leading Genin, are you? Humph. Kakashi turned his head away and said nothing. Jingyan reminded quietly. Kakashi was promoted to Chunin only last year. There's no way he's a Jonin. Oh yes. Zihong's thoughts were in a mess. She hadn't figured out the situation yet and her face was filled with confusion. Jingyan stood aside, pursing his lips to hold back his smile. It really is him! And so, Kakashi, does this count as being held back? Kakashi glanced at him, then looked straight ahead, without answering his question. Tusk. Jingyan suppressed the urge to mock and sat upright, maintaining the eerily quiet atmosphere in the classroom. According to the monster level of the previous game, the Kakashi in front of him was now at least a boss-level challenger, definitely not someone who could be dealt with by just talking. You need to take it step by step. Let's see who the teacher is. Jingyan was just thinking about it when a series of footsteps were heard outside the house. The three of them stared at the door at the same time. Could it be their teacher? After waiting for a long time, the footsteps stopped abruptly, as if they had gone to other classrooms. A hint of doubt appeared on Zihong's face. She whispered, "Our teacher suddenly disappeared." Kakashi said calmly, "As ninjas, we just have to wait." Jingyan glanced at them and his mouth twitched slightly. If there is nothing wrong with Uchiha perception, that was their teacher, who seemed to have some evil taste and wanted to use this opportunity to observe the personalities and abilities of the three of them. Who is it later? If we meet and introduce each other, how should I answer? Jingyan thought quickly in his heart. Outside the door, Jiraiya sighed. Did not expect. At this age and status, he still has to come out in person to help lead the team, a group of kids who have just graduated. Really? It's all the old man's fault! He secretly observed the situation inside. The little girl is very smart and good at illusions. It seems that she also has potential in perception. Perhaps she can be considered for medical or auxiliary training. The silver-haired brat is not easy to get along with. No wonder no one wants him. He's a very troublesome guy. As for the last one, Tisk, it doesn't look that easy to fix. I'm just asking for trouble. Jiraiya stroked his chin, thinking back to last night's events. Inside the Hokage building yesterday. Old man, I just recently planned to travel outside the village, and you asked me to take care of the students. You did it on purpose. The village needs you, Hiruzen said. Jiraiya curled his lips, and after a few seconds of silence, he said, "Are the three children I am asked to take care of special?" "There's headache Kakashi," Hiruzen said. Jiraiya was silent for a long time before he said, "Isn't that kid already a Chunin? Take a look." Hiruzen handed it over. Jiraiya took it and saw that it was full of complaints from those ninjas against Kakashi. Right now, almost no team dared to hire Kakashi and they were all shirking their responsibilities. Of course, Hiruzen could also force the arrangement, but the old man wanted him, a Sannin, to help with the training. Jiraiya thought of Sakumo, who committed suicide, sighed, and did not immediately refuse, but glanced at the table. Subsequently, he noticed a resume in the pile of papers. Jiraiya picked it up. "It's that kid!" He read it carefully. It detailed Jingyan's situation. Descendants of the Thousand Hands. More than a year ago, this child's parents passed away and his personality has changed drastically since then. He becomes a little withdrawn and weird and doesn't fit in with other students in the class. Orphans of War! Jiraiya held the paper in his hand and remained silent for a moment. During the Second Ninja World War, the three ninjas became famous, but many ninjas also died under their command and leadership. Such a hardworking child, with a personality the other two are not fixed right. Let's add him. I'm a little interested in this kid, you know. Hiruzen was slightly surprised. This kid, although he graduated early today, he didn't have a very deep impression of it at all. He only remembered that he was very skilled in substitution techniques and his physical skills were also quite good. A very hardworking and smart kid. I think he has the potential to be like Minato, Jiraiya said. Saruto by Hiruzen was silent for a moment, then nodded gently. Okay, then him, Kakashi, and who else? It's all up to you. It doesn't matter. Jiraiya answered, then glanced over and picked out the one that he liked the most. Just her. End of this chapter. Chapter 4 Another Watergate. Chapter 4 Another Watergate! Crunch. The door opens. Inside the classroom, 3 people held their breath and looked towards the door, but for a long time, the person outside the door did not come in. Who is this? It's such a bad taste. Jingyan couldn't help but complain in his heart. Next moment a figure stepped in. Have you 3 been waiting for a long time? With a head of white hair and a greasy character on his forehead, he looks particularly eye-catching. Dress up, all are familiar. Uchiha's eyes widened. Kakashi was dumbfounded, unable to believe it for a moment. Jingyan was also shocked. How could it be? Jiraiya, this person, is one of the 3 ninjas, and he had never heard of Kakashi being led by Jiraiya, but soon he came to his senses. Things are unpredictable. Although it may be a bit self-sentimental, perhaps it is just me, the butterfly, flapping my tiny wings, that affects everything. He took a deep breath, his tone unable to hide his excitement. Are you Master Jiraiya? Jingyan understood. I can't be too bland. The person in front of him was Jiraiya, one of the 3 ninjas. Many ninjas in Konoha village regarded them as their idols. As ordinary civilian ninjas, they should have shown shock and excitement when seeing each other. Jiraiya laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, you are my subordinates for the time being. Come on, let's talk in a spacious place." Yes, the rooftop of the teaching building. Jiraiya sat on the edge, and the 3 people in front stood obediently. He glanced at the 3 of them. You all should know me, so I won't introduce myself. You can just get to know each other and find out what you like and dislike. Hokage Kakashi, a chunin, is good at swordsmanship and lightning style. He doesn't like anyone and hates people who break the rules. Kakashi was cool and direct. Kyouhiko was very nervous, pinching the corner of her clothes, and stammered, "Master Jiraiya, my name is Kyouhiko. I am good at illusion, I like wasabi octopus, and I hate cake. Raya mine Kyouhiko, currently more skilled in taijutsu, enjoys training and becoming stronger, and hates war." Jingyan said. This is the result of his careful consideration. I like cultivation and hate war. These answers are consistent with one's own background and will not reveal more information such as daily preferences. They also avoid any discrepancies or conflicts with previous answers and will not arouse suspicion. Over the past year or so, he preferred to practice alone and had concerns in this regard. Jiraiya paused slightly. Okay, I understand. His smile faded and his expression became serious. Now that we know each other, I'll make something clear first. Lord Hokage thinks you have great potential, so he asked me to lead you, but Jiraiya glanced around. I don't think you have the potential to serve as my subordinates. Tomorrow morning, you will go to the No. 7 Martial Arts Training Ground. I will conduct a comprehensive assessment of your abilities. If you fail, he said coldly, you will be sent back to the ninja school. As for you, you are a chunin, so you can join the other teams. Of course, if you think they have just graduated and are not capable enough to be in the same team with you, you can quit now. Kakashi glanced at the other 2. Jingyan and Uchiha remained silent, but the reasons for the 2 are not the same. The former vaguely guessed that this question itself was a test, and Jiraiya might have led the team mainly for Kakashi, but why did there appear to be such a change he didn't know? Ziyurhung was worried. Kakashi is a chunin after all. Kakashi didn't answer immediately. He looked at them carefully for a while and said, I don't think they are capable of completing the assessment mission. Jiraiya remained calm. You want to quit? No, I want to give it a try. Kakashi replied. Jiraiya nodded. Okay, what about you? If you quit, the village will arrange another teacher. My test is definitely more difficult, and you may not be unable to pass if you go to someone else's. I want to participate. Jingyan did not hesitate. Being a student of the Sannin was no ordinary opportunity. There was no reason for Jiraiya to retreat. Very good, then you have an afternoon to prepare. By the way, remember not to eat breakfast tomorrow morning, otherwise ha ha ha. Jiraiya's figure disappeared in an instant. There were only 3 people left on the rooftop. Jingyan took the initiative to speak. Let's go to the outside of the No. 7 martial arts arena and practice together to get familiar with each other's abilities. The assessment is a mission. If you are not capable enough, I will abandon you without mercy. Kakashi snorted coldly. Then, he said this and left in an instant. Zehong said with disgust, "Why is he like this? He's heading towards the martial arts arena. Let's follow him." Jingyan said this and disappeared in an instant. Zehong hurriedly followed. In front, Kakashi glanced sideways and saw the 2 catching up, and he observed secretly. Kyouhiko, his speed is quite fast, and he seems to have practiced the teleportation technique well, so his strength may be quite good. But the other one is more difficult. But she is good at illusion, so it is useful. Kakashi continued running forward. He didn't notice in the dark Jiraiya was following behind. This silver-haired brat really doesn't consider his teammates at all. On the contrary, that kid, who obviously has a faster speed, has always maintained a considerable distance in order to match Red's speed. The more Jiraiya looked at Kyouhiko, the more he liked him. This kid is not only smart, but also very considerate and able to take care of his teammates. If guided properly, it might be a Watergate. If it's not guided properly, his heart sank, and the image of another teammate flashed through his mind. Hey! I don't know what Orochimaru is doing recently. Ever since Rope Tree died and Tsunade left, Orochimaru has become more and more weird. However, in this situation, it's not enough to just take care of your teammates. The area around the martial arts arena is very dangerous. I'll go stop him, and then the 3 of us will go in together. Stop. Zehong was stunned. Then, she saw Jingyan in front of her disappear in an instant. When he looked again, he saw that the other party was chasing after Kakashi. In a few blinks of an eye, Jingyan was not far behind Kakashi. Kakashi was even more surprised. He was confident that he was the fastest among his peers, and the only one who could compare with him was Might Guy, who was also practicing very hard. As for Ryama and Kyouhiko, although they were classmates, they were only in the same year, so he didn't have a deep impression of them. However, the speed just now is his teleportation technique so powerful. Kakashi wanted to compete, so he used the instant body flickering technique with all his strength, and his speed was even slightly faster than before. But the next moment, Jingyan was in front of him and put his hand on his shoulder. Amazing! Kakashi's pupils shrank. Even if he used all his strength, he still couldn't match the other party, unless he uses lightning chakra to stimulate the activity of his body. He cannot master that technique very well, and improper use will hurt himself. Kakashi, the Death Forest is quite dangerous. Let's go in together, 3 of us. He said, pausing slightly. Although you are a Chunin, the Hokage said that a team battle is never a one-man battle. You have to take the rest of the team into consideration. Kakashi was silent. The reason why I was unhappy just now was just to take care of Zehong. Stopped and looked at the person in front of him carefully. Kyouhiko. There is actually such a talented classmate in the school. Yes, sorry. Zehong finally caught up. Her forehead was covered with sweat, but beads of sweat condensed into drops on her temples and fell down bit by bit. Jingyan said, "It doesn't matter, we are a team, we should be together." Kakashi didn't say anything, but jumped down. Let's go. It will be dark in the forest later and it will be hard to spot the trap. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Graduation is coming again, not without reason. Chapter 5. graduation and coming back, not without reason, Hokage's office. The third Hokage placed his hand on the crystal ball, observing the movements of Kakashi, Kyouhiko, and Kurenai at this time. Oh! When a strange noise was heard, the third Hokage immediately pressed the crystal ball and looked towards the window. Then he reacted. No, what am I afraid of? Saruto by Hiruzen coughed lightly, looked towards the window, and scolded. Jiraiya, can't you come in through the front door? Hey, this is faster. Jiraiya was still not serious. He glanced at it and then his face became serious. You are watching? How is it? The third Hokage held the pipe with one hand. Ryamine Kyouhiko is indeed good. The most important thing is consciousness and thinking. This child is very mature, but the more mature a child is in a war, the more dangerous he is. He needs guidance just like Kakashi. Jiraiya came over and looked at the crystal ball together. In the scene, Kyouhiko and Kakashi were running while punching and kicking each other, competing in physical skills. Initial Jingyan was always at a disadvantage, but with his speed, he was always able to avoid danger and avoid the sharp edge. But as the fight went on, even through the crystal ball, he and the third generation could see that Jingyan's taijutsu skills are constantly improving. How can it be? Is there really such a genius in the world? Jiraiya pushed the third Hokage Pat. The cigarette holder falls. Oh, my baby. The Sandai immediately reached out to catch it, but all the tobacco in the pipe spilled out. But now is obviously not the time to worry about tobacco. The third representative looked serious, staring at the crystal ball. This rate of progress. If he hadn't been sure that the other party was a descendant of the Senju, he would have thought that Jingyan had opened his Sharingan and was imitating Kakashi's physical skills. Jiraiya, have you seen him before? Old man, I have been meeting him for more than a year. I can assure you that this kid is very hardworking and has made great progress through his own efforts. He must have never fought against others before, so he has accumulated a lot of experience and made rapid progress. Ah, the third generation nodded. He believed it. He was just too surprised before a child who was completely unknown in the past actually has such talent and perseverance. It's amazing. Who? Kakashi gasped. He really couldn't believe that there were people in the world who made such rapid progress. Genius. But what are all my years of hard work and efforts? Kakashi absolutely did not believe that any talent could lead to rapid improvement in a short period of time. The person in front of him was most likely someone who had been practicing behind closed doors before, so he didn't know how to fight at all, and only now did he display his strength. Not only that, the opponent's speed seemed to be increasing unnoticed. He is still getting stronger! Although Kakashi was not so flustered that he was unable to defeat the enemy, he was inevitably shocked. Moreover, as Kyouhiko's strength increased, the battle between them became more and more dangerous. But Jingyan himself understood. Without the benefits he had taken from Kai before, he would never have been able to improve his boxing skills so quickly. In addition, fighting is the fastest way to integrate knowledge and abilities into yourself. Stop fighting. It will be bad for both sides. Zai Rai Hong tried to dissuade him from behind, but no one listened. She gritted her teeth, hardened her heart, and formed seals with her hands. The art of falling. Sakura. Cherry blossoms fall from the sky. When Jingyan and Kakashi saw this scene, they immediately realized that something was wrong, so they immediately landed and gave up the fight, and then quickly began to break the illusion. After a while, they both opened their eyes at the same time. Of course, it wasn't that they broke the illusion, but that Kurenai quickly dispelled the illusion. Kurenai quickly bowed and apologized. I'm sorry, but the fight is getting more intense, and I don't know any medical ninjutsu. If anything goes wrong, it will be very dangerous in the forest of death. Hong, we should thank you, Jingyan said. Kakashi said nothing. At this age, he can already use illusions of this level. Kurenai's illusion is indeed extraordinary. No wonder he was chosen by Lord Jiraiya. Fortunately, he was wearing a mask, so others couldn't see clearly, which didn't ruin his cool image. Jingyan didn't expose his scars. We are a team. The battle just now helped us understand each other's strengths so that we can better plan tactics for tomorrow's assessment. Team, partners, Kakashi said indifferently, just don't hold me back. Zihahong's blood pressure rose. She has always been gentle, but the impression she had of the genius Kakashi subverted her perception time and time again. How could this guy be so evil? She took a few deep breaths, but when she looked at Jingyan, she found that he was quite calm. Was Jingyan mentally prepared also? The two were once in the same class. Unlike her, who was a grade below Kakashi, but the next moment, Jiraiya was stunned. Perhaps you didn't use your full strength just now. After all, you still have the sword. But no matter how powerful you are, can you defeat Lord Jiraiya alone? Jingyan said calmly. Kakashi turned around and said nothing, but stared at him. The purpose of cooperation is to cultivate companions. If you ignore the safety of your companions, regardless of whether we can pass the assessment or not, we are just passers-by and tools in your eyes you keep to yourself. Why don't you go to Anbu? It's not without reason that you came back 2 years after graduation. How you view others is how others will view you. No one would want to be your teammate. Jingyan finished speaking and said calmly, Hong, let's survey the terrain first. It may be useful tomorrow. Original, it's not that I was mentally prepared, but I had been suppressing my emotions, which only finally burst out at this moment. What sharp words! Isn't he afraid of a fight? Yuhai looked at Jingyan blankly, then looked at Kakashi. At this moment, Kakashi's eyes were filled with anger and his fists were clenched, but Jingyan has no regrets and does not intend to apologize. In Kakashi's case, it's no use talking to him nicely. Even if he can change his ways one day, he might have to sacrifice a teammate he doesn't want to be Obaido. Even if he does, there may not be a band to save him and the speed of persuasion is too slow. Jingyan is still hoping to quickly defeat the boss Kakashi and get some rewards. How can he have the leisure to play emotional games slowly off course? He didn't expect to conquer it in one go. Not once, 2 or 3 times is always much stronger than emotional persuasion. The first step is to make this guy understand that respect is mutual. It is true that his individual strength is not as good as the other party, but that does not mean Kakashi can throw out his bold remarks again and again. The second step, it all depends on whether Jiraiya can cooperate well. Jingyan thought to himself. Yuhai and I hesitated for a moment, but still caught up with Jingyan. Kyouhiko-kun, wait for me. My ability to detect traps is average, so please help me observe them. It's best not to move them, it is good. The two walked deeper into the No. 7 training ground. Kakashi was angry. Behind them, Jiraiya's shadow clone sighed silently. This silver-haired kid is really disrespectful. No wonder so many people complained about him. But the kid got really angry and his words hit Kakashi's sore spot, silencing the silver-haired kid. It's a little devil after all. No matter how mature and restrained you are, you will still get angry and furious and will not be able to stay completely calm. Jiraiya couldn't help but smile again. This is like a child exclamation, but what will you do in the assessment tomorrow? In the evening, the three went their separate ways. After the quarrel, there was an obvious rift between the three of them, so much so that they had little communication afterwards. Is this really good? Zihai and I asked in a low voice. Jingyan's words just now also overturned the other party's first impression that he had formed in half a day. It turns out that the other party is just more tolerant. Kakashi has his reasons for being like this. I understand that. I was in a similar situation before. But if you want to solve the problem, you can't just obey him blindly. That's not right. So that's it, Yuhai and I murmured to herself. Jingyan stopped. It's near your house. I won't send you any further. What? Zihahong woke up with a start, looked around, and found that she had arrived at the intersection where her home was. Just now she didn't pay any attention at all, just thinking about today's events and the person in front of her. Goodbye, let's work hard together tomorrow. Yes. Thank you, Jingyan-kun. I learned a lot today. End of this chapter. Chapter 6 Jiraiya, Udon and -039 T want others to know. Chapter 6 Jiraiya, you don't want others to know inside the Hokage's office. What are you going to do? Maybe be more patient with Kakashi. The Sandaime looked at Jiraiya. Kakashi is the biggest problem child, but he has talent, and the third generation couldn't bear to see him go to waste, so he still hoped that Jiraiya would show mercy. Jiraiya said, if it really comes to a result that you don't want to see, then we can only say that we are not destined to be together. Gone. He waved and disappeared into the office. The third Hokage sighed softly, his face filled with sadness. The next day, in the Death Forest Martial Arts Field No. 7, Yuhai arrived early, and then she noticed that Kyouhiko and Kakashi had also arrived early and were sitting under a tree to rest. She tiptoed and dared not make a sound. Sit down and take a rest, always thinking about things. Siyurhung looked at the shadows of the trees above with mixed feelings. After a long time. Oh, sorry, something happened on the way. I'm late. Jiraiya chuckled. Master Jiraiya, you are too late. Zahikura and I checked the time. In another hour, it will be noon, but when he saw the three people in front of him, his smile froze. One was wearing a mask and had a cold look in his eyes. The other two were very calm. You are so united and in harmony. Seeing you like this, I have more confidence that you can pass the test. Jiraiya coughed lightly and took out the bell from his waist. Kakashi, I don't know what your first test was like, but my test is very simple. You just need to grab the bell to pass. Hey tilde bells jingle. He hung the bell back. Any questions? Does it mean I pass if I grab just one, or do I have to grab all of them? Kakashi asked. Jiraiya said, considering the gap between you and me, you will be considered successful as long as you grab one. However, the worst performer will be suspended by me without lunch and will participate in another separate assessment in the afternoon. Kakashi took a deep breath and said nothing more. Jiraiya looked at the other two. What about you? No problem. Jingyan said. Okay, let's get started. I'll give you some time to plan your tactics. Whoosh! Exclamation. In an instant, the three people disappeared. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes and thought, did they go in different directions? Could it be that his heart sank? Jiraiya is very optimistic about Jingyan, but he will be very disappointed if Jingyan's vision and team awareness are so shallow at the same time. Yuhikura and I whispered, Kyouhiko, are we really not going to care about Kakashi? Of course we will cooperate with each other and design tactics to leave him space. He is a chunin. If he is unwilling to actively cooperate, then there is nothing we can do. Jingyan said. Zahikura and I breathed a sigh of relief. Then how do we fight? You and I will delay and attract attention head-on, and use traps and illusions to coordinate with Kakashi's position and surprise attack to see if we can take down a bell. Specifically, you use illusions, and then it is good. Let's begin. You must get my bell before the hourglass runs out, otherwise you will fail as well. Jiraiya turned the hourglass upside down. Then, he sensed the surrounding situation. Well hidden. Jiraiya's mouth curled up slightly. These three kids, apart from anything else, have very good basic skills, but there is still a loophole. Jiraiya walked forward, seemingly casually, but his steps were careful and cautious. Kara! Exclamation! A huge tide tree swept across from the front. Jiraiya dodged instantly, but in an instant, he saw a figure in front of him twist and dissipate. Sunset Red Magical Tree Binding Killing. The name of the jutsu came to Jiraiya's mind, and he instantly used his chakra to disrupt himself. In an instant, he broke free from the illusion. However, in the blink of an eye, several traps flew towards him. Jiraiya disappeared in an instant. The next moment, he squatted on the tree, looking around vigilantly. These little ghosts really, no one should be underestimated! I never expected that the little girl from the Ziri family had already mastered the B-level difficulty illusion. Before he could take a closer look, two figures rushed out. Kakashi held the knife, and Jingyan jumped up from below. Jiraiya's mouth curled up slightly then. Ding! He held a kunai in his hand and struck upwards, just in time to block Jingyan's kunai attack. Jingyan disappeared from his original position without stopping and landed on another tree, but not a bad tactic. Behind him, Jiraiya's voice rang out. The Jiraiya just now disappeared in an instant. It's a shadow clone. Jiraiya immediately attacked with punches and kicks at an extremely fast speed. After a while, Kyouhiko and Jiraiya exchanged 3 punches and 2 kicks. The physical training is pretty good! Jiraiya was surprised. Jingyan's skills among the Genin, he is definitely top-notch, and many Chunin may not be as good as him. He had an idea in his mind and immediately took strong action. Result. Bang! The figure in front turned into a piece of wood. The real Jingyan escaped to another direction. Good boy! Jiraiya's eyes flashed with admiration. What he admired was not only Jingyan's skills and the speed of combining substitution techniques and instant body movements, but also Jingyan's judgment. As soon as I took strong action, the other party ran away quickly. Such judgment shows that Jingyan is very calm. Great! This way! A giant tree flew out from above, sweeping forward and killing Jiraiya. Uchiha cuts down the trap and covers for Jingyan, but Jiraiya punched directly and broke the tree mechanism. If that's all, you will definitely not pass the assessment. Go. Jingyan knew very well Jiraiya didn't use his full strength! If this was an actual combat, the opponent could have directly used the lion's hair technique, and the speed would have been much faster than this. After all, the opponent is a Sannin. Jiraiya's speed now just happens to be slightly faster than his. He has to use traps or cooperate with his teammates to escape. This is a question, but he had already brought Jiraiya to where he was needed. Whoosh whoosh! Rafts with spikes on them flew towards Jiraiya from all directions as he jumped into the air. At the same time, 2 clones rushed out. One of them looks like Jingyan. The other one transformed into Kakashi. The 2 people ran back and forth quickly. Ziyurahong was on the tree, with her hands in a seal. In the blink of an eye, 4 or 5 raft traps and 2 people had arrived in front of him. Instantly, his hair grew rapidly, spreading in all directions, grabbing the first raft that flew over, while the others grabbed the 2 people who were coming to kill him. Bang! The clone exploded immediately. This is an illusion created by Uchiha, Naraku's clone. An advanced clone illusion with additional abilities. Jiraiya had been maintaining his disordered chakra and was not hit at all, but at this moment, the raft flying from behind instantly changed into a human form. Kakashi grabbed the rope with his hand, and the blade in his hand was like the fangs of a wild beast, and he rushed towards Jiraiya at an extremely fast speed. Boom! Jiraiya blocked the blade with a kunai, but a breeze blew from behind. Kyouhiko! What a great speed! Jiraiya was shocked. Although he had known for a long time that Jingyan's body flash technique was extremely amazing, he was still shocked when he faced the technique with its full strength. Mastering this level of teleportation at the age of 7, it's amazing. Not only that, his punches, kicks and body balance all surpass the physical skills of his peers. Can compare with him, I'm afraid it's only Kakashi and another weird boy, not to mention. At this time, there was another Kakashi besieging him. Knives, kunai, fists. There are also cherry blossom illusions that appear one after another. The combination of the 3 is dazzling. The next moment, the knife and the fist hit at the same time. Careful. When Jingyan's fist touched it, he immediately realized something was wrong. This is not a normal texture, and With their mediocre skills, could they really pose a threat to Jiraiya? Sure enough, Jiraiya in front of him turned into a pool of mud. This is the Earth clone. Above, Uchiha and I shouted immediately. Without any instructions, Kakashi swung his blade and rushed forward to meet the attack. A huge net flew down from above. All around, the rafts that had been fixed by hair also rushed towards the center. Tear! Kakashi cut the net with his knife, leaving a huge hole. Before he could recover, Jiraiya had already arrived before him, but Jingyan was in front of him in an instant. Bang! Exclamation! A solid fist bump. Boom! Exclamation! Jingyan was knocked to the ground, but at that moment he shouted, "Master Jiraiya, you don't want others to know that you are end of this chapter." Chapter 7 There will be a day when you are tied up. Chapter 7 There will be a day when you will be tied up! Exclamation! Okay. What the hell? Jiraiya raised his eyebrows and was distracted for a moment. Simultaneously, a kunai flew towards Jiraiya's waist. Want to steal? He immediately dodged it, but bang! Exclamation! Kakashi in front turned into a piece of wood. The next moment, the blade slashed Jiraiya's waist. A bell's cord was cut! Exclamation! But almost at the same time, Jiraiya's hair grew and grabbed Kakashi's hands. Kakashi gritted his teeth and threw the bell to the ground. Kyouhiko, Kurenai Yuhai, was running wildly below, throwing kunai and shurikens in her hands. There are no more traps around. The only thing she could do it is to help Jingyan clear obstacles and find a safe landing point. Wow! Exclamation! The spiked raft that was flying towards Kyouhiko had a rope cut by the kunai thrown by Kurenai, making a loud noise. Jingyan turned around and immediately grabbed the edge of the flying raft. Then used strength and exert force. He turned around and leaped upward, trying hard to grab the falling bell. Boom! Exclamation! Caught! Exclamation! Kyouhiko seized the moment, and Jiraiya's hair arrived. He was tied into a cocoon and dragged up like a chicken, standing side by side with Kakashi. Jiraiya glared at Kyouhiko. If it weren't for those words, how could he have been distracted and had his bell snatched away? This kid, he is a little smart boy and seems to pay no attention to anything, but in fact he is more cunning than anyone else! Exclamation! Ha! You little brats are not simple. You were quarreling yesterday, but you are working together today? Master Jiraiya, those are all tactics. Jingyan chuckled. Kakashi blushed. Tactics? What a bullshit war! Exclamation! We had a fight yesterday. Jiraiya let go of Kyouhiko. Afterwards, he used a rope to tie up Kakashi. I said that the worst performers would be tied up with ropes by me and would not have lunch. Jiraiya carried Kakashi down. Jingyan followed closely behind. Jiraiya chuckled and walked to a medium-sized tree in the distance and tied Kakashi to the trunk. Humph! Kakashi turned his head away and did not defend himself. 2 lunch boxes were placed next to him. Uchiha and I also came over and stood with them. Jiraiya pointed at the 2 bento boxes. According to the rules we set before, each of you will have 1 portion. He won't get any. If anyone dares to share with him, he will also have to take part in the afternoon assessment. But Jiraiya was anxious and wanted to argue. Jingyan had already picked it up and started eating. She was stunned for a moment and had to pick up the other one. Jiraiya raised his lips slightly. Well, I'll go get some ramen first. You guys keep an eye on him. Yes. Jingyan responded respectfully. Jiraiya left. Uchiha and I was in mixed feelings, holding the lunchbox but had no appetite. I'm sorry. It was me who didn't play any role, but in the end you were tied up. Jingyan was busy eating his meal and seemed not to hear. Seeing this, Kakashi could only comfort him stiffly. You also performed very well, and you will definitely not be able to pass the test alone. Uchiha-Kurenai's illusion served as a good cover, and her perception ability also accurately pointed out the direction. Not to mention the cover of illusions, clones and traps in the middle, and so she has made contributions. Kakashi knew that he had indeed performed the worst. As a chunin, it was Kyouhiko who ultimately guided the direction of the battle, even taking his presence into account, leaving him enough space and opportunity to attack. Without the cooperation of Kyouhiko and Uchiha, there was no way he could cut the bell rope. In comparison, Jingyan looks more like a qualified chunin. Am I really an unqualified ninja? Kakashi began to doubt himself and felt depressed, and at this moment his stomach started to growl. He is hungry! Just when I was feeling ashamed. I've eaten half of it. If you don't mind, you can eat the other half. We'll take the exam together in the afternoon, so we'll have a better chance of success. Jingyan handed over the lunch box. Sunset Red bowed her head. The other party only ate half! She came to her senses. Jingyan didn't bear a grudge against Kakashi, but he had already planned to take the exam with Kakashi. She made her decision immediately. You guys consume a lot of energy in close combat, and I'm more of a support. I only need to eat 1/3 of it to recover some of my energy, and the rest will be shared between the two of you. You all took the exam together, there's no reason to leave me behind. A smile appeared on Uchiha's face. Kakashi blinked, unable to speak for a moment, and felt a lump in his throat. Don't get me wrong, I just don't want the team to be short of someone, and it's not against the rules for us to take the test together by feeding you. Correct? Uchiha nodded, then glanced at Jingyan calmly. Really? The real Kyouhiko is a very gentle, considerate and understanding person. Even at this time, he can still think about Kakashi's feelings. Yesterday was obviously to correct Kakashi's mistake. She reached out. Can you take off your mask? It is good. Kakashi uttered a word with difficulty. The mask was taken off, revealing his handsome face. Kyouhiko handed over the lunch box and fed it to Kakashi with chopsticks. No matter if you really have to take another exam in the afternoon or just pass it directly, you still have to eat. Jiraiya is also very cooperative and hasn't come out yet! Jingyan fed him. While eating, I had to hold back the emotion and sadness in my heart. This was the hardest meal Kakashi had ever had. At this time, whoosh! A figure landed in front of Jingyan and the others. You actually dared to break the rules. It seems that you want to reevaluate, right? Jiraiya looked indifferent. Yes. Jingyan nodded. Jiraiya sneered. Well, I will use all my strength this afternoon. Kakashi's breathing hitched and his face turned pale. No, I let you pass. When Jiraiya finished the second half of his speech, Kakashi and Uchiha were dumbfounded, and Kyouhiko also had a surprised expression, but Jiraiya patted Kyouhiko on the shoulder. Don't pretend, kid. Did you guess it? Is it? As a Sannin, since you are willing to be the leader of the team, you will not give us impossible test questions, so I think there is definitely a chance for us to pass it together. Jingyan said. Jiraiya was a little surprised and said, but you can also give him up. This does not affect you becoming my subordinates. If I can give up my comrades in order to become your disciple, would you dare to leave your back to me? Ha ha ha. Jiraiya laughed. Then he said seriously, yes, sacrifice is inevitable in war and missions, but how can the other ninjas dare to entrust their lives and missions to someone who doesn't care about the lives of his companions? Kyouhiko and Jiraiya's words like thunder. It exploded in Kakashi's ears. The life of your partner was silent. What Jingyan said yesterday is now echoing in my ears again. I came back 2 years after graduation. There's a reason for that. How you see others is how others see you. If we talk about yesterday, Kakashi was angry and annoyed. Now I am more reflective. Could it be, in the past mission, shouldn't I have given up and saved those people? Not! As a ninja, missions and rules are the most important. In Kakashi's heart, his past ideals and present thoughts were in a conflict, and it was hard to tell who would win. Jingyan didn't expect to win in one battle. If an old stubborn person like Kakashi could be converted so easily, he wouldn't become a cancer to the team. Now is just a good start. However, the next moment, as a Hokage, you didn't try hard to win people's hearts. but you still succeeded in gaining their trust with your personality charm. Reward. Chakra control ability improved. Genin glanced at Zihaikiranai. He was not surprised, but he felt quite strange. The main goal was not achieved. But I gained something secondary, not bad. Chakra control ability is worth it no matter how much it is improved. Blood earned. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Is your talent reasonable? Chapter 8. Is your talent reasonable? In the Hokage's office, Saruto by Hiruzen let go of the crystal ball and a look of relief appeared on his face. These three kids definitely can't beat Jiraiya, but the fact that the task of snatching the bells could be completed so well was beyond the expectations of the third generation. He originally thought that, if these three people can put aside their past grudges and maintain a certain degree of teamwork, perhaps Jiraiya will turn a blind eye and let them go. But now, Jingyan and Uchiha took the initiative to leave space tactically, creating opportunities for Kakashi. Kakashi didn't make a fuss, but took the initiative to seize the opportunity. There is a conflict, but it does not affect the assessment. 1 yard owned by a yard. This is mature ninja thinking. Simultaneously, leading all this was the child whom he had never cared about before. No wonder Jiraiya singled him out. The familiar Igaraku ramen restaurant. The difference is, today's hands are in their prime, and their masculine faces are full of youthfulness. Kakashi put his mask back on. Jiraiya walked in and yelled, "Boss, 4 servings of ramen." "Okay, please take a seat, all 4 of you." Waving hands and smiling. "You guys sit here, I'll go buy some barbecue as a snack." Jiraiya glanced around, but I glanced at him from the side, feeling a little uneasy. "Jingyan, come with me and go see what you want to eat." "Yes." Jingyan stood up respectfully. The two left. Uchiha couldn't help but sigh softly. Master Jiraiya thinks highly of Kyouhiko. Kakashi's eyes glazed over for a moment, and he seemed to be about to speak, but stopped himself. He remembered it clearly. Then Jiraiya suddenly froze for a moment, distracting himself so he could cooperate in cutting the rope. "Seems to be something like you don't want to either. Kakashi, you seem to know something?" As a ninja who is good at illusion and perception, Uchiha immediately noticed that Kakashi seemed to be a little strange just now. Kakashi thought about it and answered carefully and briefly. "Maybe Jiraiya-sama and Kyouhiko." "Ah, Kyouhiko, you did a great job today. You showed mercy, otherwise we would not have been able to pass." Kyouhiko is not Naruto or Obaido. He knew very well that the gap between him and the 3 ninjas was not even a little bit, and he really didn't want them to get the bell, which was too easy. A needle Kasidigarpa can put an end to all delusions. However, from beginning to end, the strongest ninjutsu Jiraiya had ever used was just the random lion hair technique, and he didn't use the complete version, just used it as a rope. This is not just releasing water, it's releasing the sea. Jiraiya coughed lightly. After all, this is a Genin assessment, which mainly tests teamwork and attitude, not strength. Also, about that matter, Master Jiraiya, there are some places in the village that you better avoid. After all, you are one of the 3 ninjas and represent the image of our Konoha ninjas. Jingyan showed the integrity of a young boy. Jiraiya's face turned red. He had previously thought that Jingyan had just passed by and had not noticed his lurking. Now it seems that the other party just doesn't dare to intervene. He replied awkwardly, "It was for material collection, don't get me wrong." "Oh." Jingyan had an expression of "I believe it." Jiraiya was also embarrassed. He also knew that these words were hard to convince people. "Whatever you want to eat, just order something. It's my treat. I'm not the one paying, am I? You little brat." After eating ramen and barbecue, it was already afternoon. Jiraiya was rarely serious. "From now on, you are already a team. I hope you can continue the cooperative attitude you showed this morning." Also, Jiraiya looked at the 3 of them. "Have you ever practiced climbing trees and treading water?" "Ah." The 3 of them nodded in unison. Jiraiya pulled out a piece of paper. Kakashi, Hong should have been tested. You can take a test to see which ninjutsu is more suitable for you to practice. Although you have good cooperation, Kakashi's lightning escape and swordsmanship are suitable for surprise attacks and assassinations, while Hong's illusion is more for containment and assistance. You lack a frontal player. Jiraiya's meaning is self-evident. Jingyan is the most suitable team member for frontal combat. Yes, I understand. Jingyan doesn't practice ninjutsu. Does that mean he doesn't want to practice? There is no chance. Although he is a descendant of the Senju clan, he has no ninjutsu reserves after being separated from the clan. After 2 generations of inheritance, he only has pension money left. If he doesn't have a ninjutsu scroll, isn't it a waste of money to buy test strips? Took the chakra paper. After a while, a damp spot appeared on the paper. Jiraiya said, according to the performance of the paper, you directly possess water attribute chakra. Learning water ninjutsu is the fastest and most convenient. Ninjutsu attributes are innate, but can also be developed later. The attributes that Jingyan possessed simply meant that it would be easier for him to learn water jutsu. Theoretically, he could also cultivate other attributes. I heard that Kakashi is good at lightning escape. I learned water escape ninjutsu, which can be used in conjunction with lightning escape. As he spoke, a trace of admiration appeared on his face. Also, my idol is the second Hokage. His water jutsu is well known in the ninja world. Even the hidden mist village is no match for him. The second Hokage. A trace of reminiscence also appeared on Jiraiya's face. That person's water escape technique is indeed extremely powerful. It seems the child suffered a blow and his personality changed a lot, but he still leaned towards Konoha in his heart. Jiraiya sighed for a moment, then came back to his senses. Okay, I'll teach you water rumble later. Hong, your genjutsu is very strong, but you need to increase your training in taijutsu. Kakashi, you have the fewest problems, but you are also the most deadly. You need to take the initiative to cooperate with your partners, understand? He commented on them one by one. The 3 of them nodded in unison. With Kyouhiko and Kakashi standing by, Jiraiya began to teach ninjutsu. Water wave is a basic water ninjutsu, but it is widely used, very convenient, and not difficult. You can try to learn it first. Then, he explained the order of making seals. Chen, Shu, Mao. While Jiraiya was still talking, Kyouhiko followed suit, and then water escape water chaos exclamation water gushed out of its mouth, turning into a raging torrent. Jiraiya blinked, stunned for a moment. With the addition of hand seals and ninjutsu, everything is still well organized. Chakra control ability is pretty good. As far as Genin is concerned, Jingyan's level is already very high. Amazing. Zihong couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice. First time learning, I got it right away. This kind of talent is really amazing, but Jingyan himself knew that the reason he was able to succeed at once was not because of his own talent, but because the water waves were relatively simple, and also because of the reward he received in the morning. After the chakra control ability is improved, releasing ninjutsu becomes too easy. Jiraiya didn't want him to be proud, so he pondered for a moment and said, it's C level, just the basics of water jutsu. Try the water wall, which is a B-level defensive ninjutsu. It is good. Jingyan nodded. He listened carefully to the order of hand seals, then increased his chakra output and spurted water from his mouth. After a while, a water wall about 1 person high appeared around him, just enough to protect him. Jiraiya was stunned and shocked for a moment. You boy exclamation, how come the chakra control ability is so strong exclamation, it's almost as beautiful as the sunset. That child is an illusion ninja. He has been practicing illusion since he was young and has a natural talent for it, which is why he has such a high level of chakra control ability exclamation. Where is Jingyan? Over the past year or so, I have focused on practicing physical skills, substitution techniques, and instant teleportation techniques. I probably only practiced climbing trees and treading water for chakra control. Is this so reasonable? Thinking of the pain he had experienced when learning ninjutsu, Jiraiya's mentality collapsed and he fell into a long period of contemplation. End of this chapter. Chapter 9, Missions are all about serving the village. Chapter 9, Missions are all about serving the village teacher. These two types of water escape only require basic attributes. You can use them if you have the corresponding attributes, so I can master them quickly. In fact, I still have a long way to go. Jingyan summarized his thoughts. He knows. The water array wall of Senju Tabarama can rotate to make the defense effect stronger. The remaining water array walls can also be higher and larger. In comparison, I have only just begun to learn how to use water escape techniques. The property system of the system panel also proves this point. 2 eye-catching entry-level evaluations. Kakashi couldn't help but say, "It's already very impressive." He thought of himself when he used lightning release ninjutsu for the first time. He was not like Jingyan, who could immediately use B-level ninjutsu. Kakashi began to understand how his peers felt when they looked at him. This is so uncomfortable. Zirahong's mood became even more complicated. Both Kyouhiko and Kakashi are absolute geniuses, and it is only natural for them to become subordinates and disciples of Lord Jiraiya. "What about yourself?" Her eyes were dull and dazed, and she remained silent for a long time. In the ninja school, Hong was also an excellent student and always ranked among the top in the class. However, after leaving the ninja school, she couldn't help but compare herself with Jingyan and Kakashi, and her self-confidence was immediately hit hard. Jiraiya glanced at it and couldn't help but sigh. Uchiha isn't a bad person, but it's definitely harder for her to get along with Kyouhiko and Kakashi. But what surprised and comforted him most about Jingyan was that he was more mature than he had imagined. If it were an ordinary genin, and he mastered a B-level ninjutsu on his first try, his tail would probably be up in the air. This one is good. There is no need to criticize him, but to criticize and summarize yourself first. What he needs to do, it means giving the ninjutsu scroll to the other party, and then teaching Jingyan how to practice and learn. "So worry-free!" Jiraiya sighed in his heart, but nodded calmly. "It's good that you understand. This level is far from a true genius. If I were to use water escape like this, the teacher would definitely ask me if I was distracted." "Yes." Jingyan lowered his head, looking respectful, and forced himself to suppress a smile. Jiraiya was definitely not talking about himself, but Orochimaru. Orochimaru back then was indeed more perverted than Kyouhiko and Kakashi. Otherwise Sarutobi Hiruzen would not have placed high hopes on him. Jiraiya's face didn't blush and his heart didn't beat fast. He coughed lightly and looked at Kakashi and Kurenai. "Kakashi, if you have any questions, you can ask me later." "Yes," Kakashi replied respectfully. "Finally, it's sunset red." Jiraiya's expression turned serious. He chose sunset red in the first place, of course not because he really liked it. As an illusion ninja, her chakra control is unquestionable. She has practiced illusion techniques inherited from her family for many years, so she is definitely a good candidate to also practice medical ninjutsu. "Hong, during this time, you should elevate your body up and then go back to study this ninjutsu." He pulled out a scroll. Sunset red opens. The letter said, "Ninjutsu, the technique of the Chaos Lion's hair." "This is Kurenai opened her eyes wide in disbelief. She had heard of this technique. This is Jiraiya's exclusive ninjutsu, and it played a huge role in the assessment in the morning. As a genjutsu ninja, your chakra control ability is excellent. It should only be a matter of time for you to learn it. In addition, if you have time, you can study and learn some medical ninjutsu." Jiraiya said seriously, "You don't have to learn it in depth. I will write you a letter of introduction." "Thank you, teacher." Zihong bowed deeply. The technique of messing up the lion's hair. Illusion. Medical ninjutsu. With this route, her direction is to become a more versatile auxiliary ninja. Believe in yourself. You have the potential to become a ninja like Tsunade, so I chose you. Jiraiya sprinkles out chicken soup for free. Zahikura and I nodded excitedly. The three of them continued their training. Jingyan was still practicing water-style ninjutsu. As he said, although he has learned how to release ninjutsu, he is still a long way from mastering it. At least the water array wall needs to be upgraded to the mastery level, right? Okay, let's train everyone. We'll have to start our mission tomorrow. As evening approached, the team separated. Many people in Konoha are sleepless tonight. Jiraiya led the team again, recruited the talented ninjas of the Haddock family, and also selected a civilian ninja. Many people started asking, but in the end, they were all confused. Who is Ryamine Kyouhiko? When I asked the children of the same age in the ninja school, everyone's answer was the same: no impression. Such a ninja actually became Jiraiya's disciple. Especially those in Jingyan's class, many of them couldn't sleep all night. They pondered over it, but couldn't figure out how a previously mediocre and invisible person suddenly became a genius who was beyond their reach. The next day, in the ninja school, in the former classroom of Kyouhiko. Have you heard? After Kyouhiko graduated, the leading jonin turned out to be Jiraiya-sama. What? Real or fake? My father said so yesterday. The classroom was in great noise. 3 ninjas. To them, this was an unattainable figure, but now, someone close to them became their disciple, and it suddenly became incredible. What's the big deal? I know Kakashi is the same. Another person said. A hint of envy flashed in Asuma Sarutobi's eyes. He did not choose to graduate this year. If I had known that Jiraiya would teach, if I had known that Hong would graduate this year and become Jiraiya-sama's disciple, hey. The young man could not show his sad expression. He sat by the window and looked out with a melancholy look. Children have different thoughts. The same is, on this day, the previously unknown Ryamine Kyouhiko suddenly became the topic of discussion among everyone in the school. But on this day, Ryamine Kyouhiko, who was the subject of much discussion, argued with Jiraiya in the Hokage hall over the mission. I'm the team's teacher. I think I can take the C-rank mission directly. Jiraiya slammed the table. Hamano Ritsuo had cold sweat on his forehead, but he still mustered up his courage. Master Jiraiya, all new teams must accept D-rank missions. This is the rule, and even you cannot violate it. He was just a chunin. Being able to say these words in the face of one of the 3 great ninjas required considerable psychological preparation. Jiraiya still wanted to argue with reason. Jingyan stood in front of the task board for a long time and finally walked over and said, Teacher, D-level tasks are fine. After all, they are all contributions to the village. What he said is absolutely right. No matter what level of mission it is, we are all serving the village. Lord Jiraiya, please don't make things difficult for us. Hamano Takai begged for mercy again and again. Jiraiya smacked his lips and nodded. Okay, then, let's start with a water-carrying task. Leave the Hokage building. We have Kakashi on our team, which is more than enough for C-rank missions. I was planning to go find the old man. Jiraiya still felt sorry. Kakashi and Kurenai didn't respond. The former follows the rules and anything goes. The latter had no objection. Jingyan whispered, Teacher, we can't just do specialization. Why don't we do more D-level missions? If the number increases, we should be able to take on C-level missions. In addition, we can also train during D-level missions, so the difference is not big also. Jiraiya waved his hand, then start brushing. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. After finishing all the D-level, the C-level will come naturally. Chapter 10. After finishing all the D-level, the C-level will come naturally. After a while, the water carrying was completed. Another mission. What? Hamano was stunned, but when he saw Jiraiya's eyes, he immediately sent another D-level mission. This time it's chopping wood, but it didn't take long either. Another one. Half a month later. 3rd generation, sir, this is really not possible. Otherwise, you should ask him to stop. If he continues like this, he won't even have enough D-level missions. Hamano couldn't help it and went upstairs to complain to the third Hokage. No way. It's not that he doesn't give it, but more than half of the village's D-level missions have been completed by Jiraiya's team in the past half-month. At this rate, the village's D-level missions will probably be cleared out in a few days. What will happen to the other teams and ordinary Genin then? Will the income be cut off? Is indeed a big problem. Saruto by Hiruzen had a headache and pondered for a moment. The strength of Jiraiya's team is indeed top-notch. Needless to say, the captain. Among the team members, there is Kakashi, who is already a Chunin, Uchiha, who is good at illusion, and Ryamine Kyouhiko. C-level tasks are not difficult for them. Next time, let him take C-rank missions. Yes. Hamano breathed a sigh of relief. C-level mission. It's not that he is unwilling to send it, but the current situation is not clear. Although the countries have ceased fighting, there is not complete peace, and there are still some minor frictions between them, not to mention. There were also a large number of wandering warriors and bandits after the war. Carrying out C-level missions now is far more dangerous than in peacetime. Hamano is only responsible for issuing tasks and has no right to decide the rules for the new team to accept tasks. The third Hokage nodded, so he naturally didn't have to fight anymore. As Hokage, you actively work for the village, and your contributions are widely recognized by everyone. Reward: water style, water wave increases by 1 level. What in the morning? Kyouhiko felt dazed as he arrived at the Hokage building to wait for everyone to gather. What's going on? Where does the reward come from? I have been busy with D-level missions recently and even received a reward from an unknown source. He glanced at the panel. Name: Yashamine Kyouhiko. Age: 7 years old. Bloodline limit: none. Skill: transformation technique mastered, clone technique mastered, substitution technique mastered, instantaneous movement technique master, water style, water wave mastered, water style, water array wall proficient in the past half-month. Jingyan mainly practiced physical skills and 2 water style ninjutsu, but all of them were only improved to the proficient level. Now, water chaos wave reaches mastery directly. A lot of knowledge about water waves emerged in my mind, a small part of which was about how to control water-style ninjutsu and better use water-style chakra. Water turbulence is very basic and does not involve enhanced property changes, but mastery-level techniques can greatly reduce the chakra required to perform the spell. Theoretically, the same amount of chakra can emit 30% more water than before. Not only that, many of the techniques of water-style ninjutsu are similar, especially water waves and water walls. Ordinary versions do not have profound changes in properties. As long as you master the basic changes in properties and can extract water jutsu chakra, you can release it easily. This is true for both. Part of the knowledge that comes with mastering water chaos waves can be used in water ray wall. Jingyan was secretly happy. This wave of improvement is huge. Although ninjutsu was of little use in the later Gundam War, at the moment he needed to consider the Third Ninja World War more. At the level of ordinary ninjas, water-style ninjutsu is quite useful. Kyouhiko-kun. Behind, a soft female voice came closer and closer. Jingyan looked back. Kakashi and Kirayuhi were running towards the side quickly, one in front and one behind. The 3 of them gathered together. "You're here so early?" Kirayuhi gasped. "Not long after, I passed by while jogging and waited here by the way," Jingyan answered. Kakashi looked hesitant and was about to speak, but when he glanced out of the corner of his eye, he swallowed the question that was about to come to his mouth. "Ha ha ha. Everyone is here early. Jiraiya has arrived." He held 2 sets of popsicles in his hand and broke them open one by one, giving one to each person. "Let's go and start today's mission. If we get enough points sooner, we can take on the more difficult C-level missions sooner." Jiraiya had had enough of D-rank missions. For an ordinary ninja team, a D-rank mission might help with teamwork and ability development, but for their team, forget it. As a chunin, Kakashi understands all the principles he should understand, but it's hard to untie the knot in his heart, and Jiraiya doesn't have a good solution at the moment. Kyouhiko, this child is the least to worry about. What Jiraiya lacks is only ability, but if she wants to be a leader of a team, she is still far from it. For them, only by doing sea-level missions and above, and actually fighting against wandering samurai, thieves, or even ninjas, can they truly learn something that is enough to improve themselves. Since you won't let me take the sea-level, I'll just do all the D-level ones. Jiraiya was furious. Entering the hall, he went straight to Hamano right. Come to me, Jiraiya-sama. The Hokage-sama said that you are now available to take C-rank missions. Hamano reported immediately. Jiraiya smiled and said, sure, no need to do D-rank missions anymore. No need for that. You have enough D-level missions. Please look at the C-level missions. Hamano Ritsuo smiled bitterly and picked up the new task board. Jingyan glanced at it. It seems that the previous rewards should have come from them. Then he looked at the task board. Most of them are mercenary tasks such as escorting caravans. Escort direction generally, they are to chaotic places like the Land of Rivers and the Land of Waves. Going to ninja countries like the Land of Earth probably cannot be counted as sea-level missions. That's it. Jiraiya pointed to a line go to 10th Street to protect the creditor and collect the debt. The corners of his mouth raised slightly. Just for this task, where is the client? This mission was just posted yesterday. You just need to go to the blue and white pavilion in Tansho Street and find a man named Matsuyama Koji. Hamano Tatsu answered. He hesitated for a moment and said, however, the reward offered by the other party is almost at the level of a B-level task. I suspect that it will not be easy to collect the debt. It doesn't matter. As long as the money is in place, I know how to get to 10th Street. Jiraiya waved his hand, a smile on his face. Jingyan looked strange. Tansho Street, that's not a good place. If a ninja went to a place like this, he would most likely break the 3 ninja prohibitions. It's hard not to wonder, my own teacher, he accepted the task pretending to be there, he just wanted to have some fun. He couldn't help but complain in his heart. Kakashi and Kyouhiko remained calm, and it was unclear whether they knew nothing about Tansho Street or simply didn't care. Anyway, Jiraiya happily accepted the task, but when he walked out of the mission hall, a figure blocked his way. Jiraiya-sama, Hokage-sama asks you to come up. Anbu Ninja. Jiraiya sighed, nodded, said hello to Jingyan and the others and went upstairs. Kyouhiko, Kakashi. As I was waiting, I heard shouting from inside. Zihai expression was slightly complicated. It's the strange flower again. Mekai. End of this chapter. Chapter 11. It turns out that Jingyan is the big shot. Chapter 11. It turns out that Jingyan is the big shot. Will you accept the task as well? If it's chopping wood or fetching water, how about a competition to see who can complete the task first? The loser will have to run 200 more laps in the afternoon. Kai ran over happily. Maybe because of the last attempt to fleece him, Might Guy now always brings Jingyan with him to duels after learning that they had been doing a lot of quests recently. Kai started this weird bet. Kakashi had a blank expression. He has long been used to it. Among the 2 teams, the ones with the most obvious expressions were Uchiha, Ebisu, and Shiranui Gemma, the 3 people who were not involved. They all covered their faces with their hands, with expressions full of embarrassment and unwillingness to look directly at the scene. Jingyan smiled faintly and said, not today. Why? Kai was slightly startled. Kakashi said coldly, we have to leave the village for a C-rank mission, so we may not be back today. What? Might Guy and the other 2 suddenly widened their eyes, their faces filled with disbelief. Leave the village. Impossible. Obviously, they were all newly graduated genin, even though the other side had Kakashi, a chunin, and the leader of the team was Jiraiya, one of the 3 Jonin. Comparing like this, it seems that the other party does have reason to leave the village. Shiranui Genma and Ebisu pursed their lips and felt for the first time the gap between the leading Jonin and the strength of the team. No matter where you are, there is one common rule: don't worry about scarcity but inequality. The two of them felt unhappy, but Kai's eyes sparkled. My eternal friend and rival, no wonder you're so crazy about completing D-rank missions. This must be the reason the village allows you to take C-rank missions, right? Maybe, but strength is also a factor. After all, Kakashi is a chunin. Jingyan shrugged. After hearing this, Might Guy was silent for a moment, and then he said, I will remember your words, and our team will catch up soon. Hit the target! This is what Jingyan told him. Now, he has a new goal. Their team must be the second team of the same level that is qualified to take on sea-level missions. Shiranui Genma and Ebisu were stunned for a moment, then nodded heavily. You are indeed very strong, but we are not far behind. Everyone has gone through the assessment. Although I don't know what Jiraiya's test is, it is definitely not easy. The fact that Kyouhiko and Kurenai were able to complete the test together with Kakashi shows that their overall strength is extraordinary. I always believed it. Jingyan nodded. Not long after, a Jonin walked out of the room. Let's go, is teacher. Kai and the others immediately agreed and then walked along the street towards the suburbs. On the road, you guys, don't take them too seriously, just do your best. Jonin Mitsui Long said. Ebisu couldn't help but ask, Teacher, is there a big gap between us and them? Although they have Kakashi, the other two shouldn't be much different from us, right? Gemma Shiranui also looked suspicious. Sanyi Long shook his head. He looked at the three of them, and after a moment of silence he finally sighed and said, I didn't want to discourage you, but as far as I know, the one who performed best in Jiraiya-sama's assessment was not Kakashi, but Ryamine Kyouhiko. What? Except for Might Guy, the other two had petrified expressions and were in complete disbelief. And Mikaya. I knew it. Jingyan is so smart. He's also very strong when we train together. He's definitely not weak. My blood is boiling. I must surpass them. Kai went crazy. Ebisu commented from the bottom of his heart, but he still couldn't believe it. If they were told that Kakashi played the biggest role in the assessment, they would not be too surprised. At most, they would be jealous that their team had a top talent like Kakashi, which led to the huge gap between them. Ryamine Kyouhiko was a ninja who graduated in the same year, and as far as they knew, he was not known as a genius in the ninja school, but in their eyes, he was a ninja who started from the same starting line. Now, Mitsui Tsuyoshi told them that that was not the case, and that the other party was actually the best among the three members of Jiraiya's team. Is he a genius? To Gemma Shiranui and Ebisu couldn't believe it. Sanji Long sighed. Perhaps it is difficult for you to accept, but this is the fact. This matter was too shocking. Many people from different families had already known about it through various channels, but these common genin were the only ones who were still unaware of it. It's nothing hard to accept. I know how hard Kyouhiko, Kakashi and the others have worked. Might Guy turned around and said seriously, the sweat that is shed is the glory of youth. Guys, cheer up. We should take them as examples instead of being deeply hurt by them. Only today do I think what you said makes some sense, but when did you become so good at talking? The other two murmured to themselves. Kai chuckled. Of course, that's what Jingyan said. Then he showed his big white teeth. How about running 200 laps together this afternoon, or running 100 laps handstand if you can't finish it? This is just right. Shiranui Genma and Ebisu looked bitter. Kyouhiko, how is your water ninjutsu training going? There has been some progress. I am thinking about whether it is possible to compress the water column and make the water column of the water turbulence wave into a line. The power should be stronger. Jingyan answered. Although Kurenai doesn't know much about ninjutsu training, there hasn't been much change, but Jiraiya looked dazed after hearing this, unable to hide his shock. To shock the Sannin so much, Kakashi was curious. Teacher, what's wrong? You may not know that the compression of the water column that Jingyan mentioned was actually already done by the second Hokage. The A-level difficulty water break wave is exactly the same as the technique you are talking about. Jiraiya sighed and told him the ninjutsu he knew. Water breaks waves. The powerful water-style ninjutsu invented by the second Hokage is so powerful that no matter how hard an object is, it will be like tofu in front of it. The state that Jingyan described it's almost exactly the same as the water-breaking wave. Jing Yanqing made an expression of surprise and trance. Jiraiya pondered for a moment and said, Kyouhiko, release the water chaos wave for me to see. Yes. Jingyan agreed and quickly formed a seal. The next moment, water gushed out like a small waterfall. It really is completely mastered! He has mastered the technique of saving chakra without any instruction, and has grasped the essence of water waves. Could it be that the talent of the Senju clan has been revived in this child? Jiraiya was dumbfounded. Kakashi blinked, more shocked than Jiraiya. He vaguely remembered that a few days ago, Jingyan did not have such proficient skills. The progress is too fast. Although he seemed to be not much different back then, Jingyan was not really well known before turn out to be. It feels like this from a different perspective. Kakashi was stunned. Not bad. It seems you have practiced a lot during this period. However, for the time being, it is too early for you to practice the nature change of compression. Even if you have mastered it, you can't use it. Jiraiya said seriously. Compression, gathering, whether exercising or releasing, requires a large amount of chakra. Yes. Jingyan did not refute. He had no intention of practicing the compression property change immediately. Jiraiya then took out 2 pairs of leggings and threw them to Kakashi and Kyouhiko. Puff! The 2 almost fell down. Could wait. These are weighted leggings, 1 pair for each of you. Jiraiya said, Hong, you don't need it for now, but I will reduce the rest time on the way and let you exercise continuously as much as possible. I have plenty of Bingling pills here. Yes. Okay, let's go to Tancho Street. End of this chapter. Chapter 12 Is this guy the second generation reincarnation? Chapter 12 Is this guy the second generation reincarnation? Short book. Outside the street, Jiraiya was full of energy, his eyes shining. Behind them, the 3 of them were breathing heavily. Ha ha! Tired! Too tired! Jingyan had thought before that wearing weighted leggings might be tiring, but he had never expected it to be so tiring. Jiraiya chuckled. Mock up. Still can't handle you. He looked around and asked, how is it? Can you still walk? Can. The 3 of them said in unison. Jiraiya nodded. Let's go. We have to find the employer as soon as possible, otherwise the debt collector will run away and the mission will fail. Go. Kakashi gritted his teeth and followed Jiraiya's pace. He takes the mission first. Failure of the mission is more painful than killing him! Jingyan followed behind, sighing in his heart. Jiraiya is really a good teacher. The seemingly ordinary leggings were actually the result of in-depth observation and calculation, and were just enough to consume their physical energy to the same level as Zihai Hong. In this way, you can rest on the road and run at the same time, and in the end the task is not delayed. Kill several birds with 1 stone. It just made him and Kakashi tired. Jingyan was panting, his legs felt like they were filled with lead, and he was thinking in his heart, according to the current condition, his body may not be as strong as Kakashi's, but his speed is faster than Kakashi because he has the advantage of the master-level instant body movement technique. This is also normal. Kakashi has been exercising since he was a child. Although his predecessor also had training, his real hard training came after he traveled through time. It's hardest to take shortcuts when it comes to physical exercise. Unless you are like Kabuto Yakashi, who directly performs cell transplantation and changes yourself genetically and physically. Kyouhiko steeled his will and quickly followed Jiraiya's pace. Tancho Street is very busy. This is a well-known den of money spending. Many wealthy people and businessmen from the River Kingdom and even the Wind Kingdom would come here to gamble and seek romantic affairs, and sometimes there would also be ninjas who came here, such as Jiraiya was very familiar with this place. He walked from the main road to the alley, taking the winding route as if he was going back to his own home. After a while, the plaque of blue and white porcelain hall appeared before our eyes. Arrived. Teacher is amazing, you can remember all this. I am confused. Zihahong couldn't help but sigh. Jingyan agreed. You can tell he's a regular customer at first glance. Kakashi nodded repeatedly. What are you talking about? Jiraiya turned around and glared at Kyouhiko. There are a lot of missions in Tancho Street, so I'll definitely remember them after coming here a few times. It's true. Jingyan responded repeatedly. Kakashi and Kurenai couldn't help but chuckle, obviously not quite believing what Jiraiya said. Jiraiya was helpless. This kid. You just know how to ruin your own reputation! But. Haha, I will definitely. Jiraiya laughed inwardly, then quickly coughed and explained. I took this mission not for what you think, but for another important matter. As he spoke, he lifted the bamboo curtain with the word gambling on it. A warrior immediately came to the door. Hey, are you ninjas from Konoha? Yes, we accepted the mission from your boss and came to protect your debt collection team. Jiraiya nodded. The warrior was overjoyed and said, Everyone follow me. He immediately pointed to one side and trotted inside. After entering the house, a young man ran out quickly. Everyone, I'm Matsuyama Koji, the owner of the Blue Flower Pavilion. The young man quickly introduced himself. Jiraiya's expression became serious. I am Jiraiya, the Genin of Konoha. They are my subordinates responsible for this protection mission. I wonder what the specific situation is. Please come in and talk over tea. When Matsuyama Koji heard the name, his eyes immediately lit up and his attitude became even more respectful. Jiraiya nodded. Following to the back hall, Matsuyama Koji asked the maid to pour tea. I didn't expect that Lord Jiraiya would lead the team himself. We are so lucky. This mission is sure to be a success. Matsuyama Koji complimented. Then he explained the details of the mission original. They had previously collected debts from a group of merchants from the river country, but that group of people hired a group of wandering samurai. Their people were no match for them, and they were not sure if the other side had any wandering ninjas, so he simply applied for the mission from Konoha at the price of a B-rank mission. So, our duty is to protect you and complete the debt collection from the merchants in river country, Jiraiya said. Matsuyama Koji nodded. That's right. Tan's Street, outside the tea house. After a commotion, a large number of wandering samurai and wandering ninjas rushed out of the museum. Behind them, a man said angrily, When I return to the Kingdom of Rivers, I will definitely send the remaining money over. Do you have to destroy my business? Hirakawa-ken, you said the same thing last time. I won't let you get away this time. Matsuyama Koji snorted coldly. Most gamblers say this, especially businessmen. But actually, like the person in front of me, he has made excuses several times and has no intention of repaying the money. Not only that, the other party not only owed gambling debts, but also owed a large sum of business money. He had finally waited for the other party to come to Duan's Street, so how could he let him go so easily? Grown-ups. Matsuyama Koji retreated to Jiraiya's side with a respectful attitude. The other person's expression changed. Ninja. Come on, kill them. Dozens of warriors around looked at each other. Come on. Don't you want money? Yes. Dozens of people rushed towards them. Matsuyama Koji quickly retreated. Jiraiya smiled, but instead of taking action immediately, he took a step back. Will you cooperate? Kyouhiko looked at Kakashi casual. Kakashi said calmly. When it comes to killing people, he thinks he is better than the fledgling Jingyan and will definitely not fall behind. As he spoke, he drew out his blade, ready to strike. Jingyan formed seals with his hands, gathering and mobilizing chakra. After more than a year of training, his hand seal forming speed became very fast, and in the blink of an eye, the ninjutsu was completed. Follow closely. Wow! A torrent of water gushed out of Jingyan's mouth. Water escape technique, water chaos wave. The mighty water flow swept away like a flood, and the people in the front were suddenly knocked over and over, and they forced their way out. Kakashi was stunned for a moment. Did Jingyan really only practice water escape for half a month? How can it be so powerful? Even after running all the way, my physical and mental energy are not in perfect condition. Under normal circumstances, the power of ninjutsu might be even greater. This guy, the water escape talent is too good. Kakashi felt envious. At this time, he was more focused on practicing physical skills, swordsmanship, and lightning ninjutsu, and didn't know much about water ninjutsu. But Jiraiya is different. He knew very well that Jingyan not only mastered the essence of water waves, but was also trying to compress and concentrate the power of the water. Otherwise, ordinary water waves alone cannot cause an impact of this magnitude. This concept, after further enhancement and improvement, it becomes the water-breaking wave of the second Hokage. At the moment when he released the ninjutsu just now, he almost thought that Jingyan was the reincarnation of the second-generation Hokage. So similar exclamation, but now is not the time to be in a daze. Kakashi, stop standing there. Ah, yes. These wandering warriors were quite responsible, and they struggled to rush over one by one. Kakashi made a mutter with both hands. Lightning release, ground walking. The flow of water suddenly stopped. At the same time, Kakashi pressed his hands on the water, and the electric current quickly spread forward along the water flow. In the blink of an eye, all the warriors who stood up were knocked to the ground by electricity. Ken Hirakawa had already run away. But where can he, an ordinary person, escape? Jingyan instantly jumped up and chased along the roof, and in just a few seconds he had caught up with the other person. The kunai was placed on the opponent's neck, immediately stopping Hirakawa Ken from running away. I'll give you money, I'll give you money. I'm sorry, but your credit with me is already negative. Write back and ask your father Hiroshi Hirakawa to give you the money. Don't even think about leaving my casino before then. End of this chapter. Chapter 13, A Little Shock from Tsunade. Chapter 13, A Little Shock from Tsunade. Thank you, Master Jiraiya, and the other three. Matsuyama Koji remained respectful then. He couldn't help but complain and talk about the past of Ken Hirakawa. This guy is an old gambler, but the Hirakawa family is quite powerful in the country of Kyouhiko and has considerable wealth. But due to Hirakawa Ken's incompetence and gambling addiction, Hirakawa Hiroshi intends to train a successor, and so, in recent years, Hirakawa Ken has had less and less money to squander and has owed a large sum of money. Even the payment for goods from the Pingchuan family was embezzled by this guy. In short, there is a big contradiction. Matsuyama Koji's eyes suddenly lit up as he spoke. By the way, Master Jiraiya, since you are now leading the team to teach Genin, does that mean you will be free to take on missions in the future? That's the theory. Jiraiya vaguely guessed what the other party wanted to do, directed entrustment. Matsuyama Koji quickly moved closer. It's like this. Our family is going to Wave Country to do business with a man from Cardo. But that guy seems to have trained a large number of warriors in Wave Country. We are worried that he might have some dirty hands. I will accept it, but you must go to Konoha to commission the mission first. Jiraiya immediately made the decision. The country of waves. That place may not only have samurai, there may also be some ninjas. I understand. Thank you, Jiraiya-sama. Matsuyama Koji's eyes lit up. Jiraiya smiled and said, by the way, Mr. Matsuyama, I have something to ask you. Has your gambling house, or your friend's gambling house, ever seen a young woman wearing clothes with the word gambling on them? Betting? Matsuyama Koji frowned. He recalled for a moment. His eyes immediately became serious, and he said, yes. There was such a guy yesterday. I understand, thank you. Jiraiya's mouth curled up slightly. Really? How could she not come to Tancho Street after leaving Konoha? Smiled silently. Thank you, Mr. Sanshin. I think my commission has been completed, right? Yes, thank you for your help. Matsuyama Koji bowed. Then, he suddenly paused for a moment and said, however, if you plan to find this woman with the word gamble on her, can you help me with a little favor? What? Jiraiya vaguely guessed the next sentence is not good. She lost a lot of money in our casino. If you see her, can you help collect the debt? At least give her an IOU, Matsuyama Koji said cautiously. He now had some guesses about that person's identity. The big fat sheep in the industry. But at the same time, it is also synonymous with trouble. Well, ha 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 ha, I will do my best. I will definitely help you get the IOU. How much does she owe? Jiraiya coughed lightly. That Tsunade girl, God knows how much money she lost. It is unlikely that the money will be repaid in the short term. He was slightly embarrassed. Matsuyama Koji breathed a sigh of relief. No problem, I can report to the family with the IOU. You know, this kind of business is not my family's business. He hastened to add. Jiraiya nodded repeatedly to show his understanding. Kyouhiko followed behind, looking at Kyouhiko and Kakashi in confusion, hoping to get answers, but they both shook their heads. Of course. Jingyan knew very well that Jiraiya's target might be Tsunade, who had already left Konoha. As one of the three ninjas, Tsunade was suffering from hemophobia at this time, and it was indeed difficult for her to function as a normal ninja. Coupled with psychological factors, leaving the village was a normal decision for her. He did not have the extravagant hope of getting Tsunade back, but was thinking about whether he could get some benefits from Tsunade. The other party is Tsunade. Any little bit you can get would be a huge reward for me at the moment. Jingyan's eyes flickered and he began to think seriously. Medical ninjutsu Konoha has already built a very mature medical ninja system, so there is no need for me to say anything. As for other knowledge and skills, it would be difficult for Tsunade to teach them. As for creating regeneration, maybe Tsunade hasn't figured it out yet, Jingyan pondered in his heart. After thinking it over, he could only remain unchanged in the face of ever-changing circumstances and take one step at a time. Tancho Street, a street close to the ancient city of Tancho. Jiraiya looked around, sensing the surrounding situation, his face very serious. Teacher, who is the person you are asking Mr. Sanshin about? Zihahong couldn't help but ask. Jiraiya glanced at them and smiled. Guess what? Kakashi pondered, then shook his head. I don't know. The one who is one of the Sannin? I've only heard that she has something to do with gambling. Jingyan whispered. Jiraiya looked at him, and then smiled. You kid. Then he nodded. As I said before, in addition to the mission, there is one more thing I want to do. I want to find out some news about Tsunade. Then, as he walked, Jiraiya said, Kyouhiko, have you started studying the other changes in the nature of water escape technique? I just tried to compress the water flow. I don't know if the properties you mentioned have changed. Jingyan answered. Jiraiya nodded. That's it. He couldn't help but sigh. Sometimes, I always wonder if the second-generation master was the same as you when he was young. He tried to compress the water chaos wave and eventually improved it into the water-breaking wave. As he spoke, Jiraiya described the horror of that ninjutsu. Nothing can be cut off. A terrifying and lethal water-based ninjutsu, and he took the opportunity to talk about the achievements of the second Hokage. Kakashi and Kyouhiko were fascinated by what they heard. So does Jingyan. However, he was more focused on ninjutsu. So, my idea is correct? Compression and condensation are techniques often used in advanced ninjutsu. Not only water escape, but also fire escape and lightning escape have similar techniques. For example, the famous skill of the third Raikage, the four-handed cage. Jiraiya talked as he walked. Kakashi's face froze when he heard this, and he seemed to have some ideas. At this moment, Jiraiya suddenly stopped and looked towards a direction on the street. That's an Izkaya. At this moment, a girl's voice was heard from upstairs. We don't have much money anymore. Oops, the sound of silence. The source of the sound popped up in Jingyan's memory. The previous incarnation had been classmates with Shizune for a short time, but after Shizune left with Tsunade, she was never seen again, but the girl's voice seemed to have not changed much. Found it. Jiraiya chuckled and looked around. Teacher, I think it's better for us to go in through the front door. I heard that adult almost beat you into the hospital. Jingyan reminded quietly. Aki's there such a secret? Kakashi and Kyouhiko immediately pricked up their ears, and even the masks could not hide the children's curious expressions. Jiraiya was annoyed. Stinky boy, where did you hear all this gossip? My grandmother used to say that hateful. Jiraiya was so angry that he punched him on the head. You know so much. However, he still followed Kyouhiko's advice and entered through the main door, then found the compartment where Tsunade was, to avoid rushing in and being punched to death. Tsunade was not surprised to see Jiraiya. The two were familiar with each other, and the noise just now was enough for her to tell the identity of the person. Hey, Jiraiya. Tsunade was holding a bottle of wine, leaning against the wall with a lazy expression. It's just that her nature is really domineering, and this kind of demeanor can make people feel more shocked. Even Kyouhiko, who is also a girl, at this moment, she opened her eyes wide and lowered her head from time to time. His face was full of shock. End of this chapter. Chapter 14 I brought you an IOU. Chapter 14 I brought you an IOU. Tsunade sat up straight and fiddled with her clothes. She still didn't want to appear too unruly in front of strange children. Then, she glanced around and paused slightly when she passed Jingyan. Then, I didn't expect you to lead another team. It seems you've already started to like the role of a teacher. Haha, there's actually nothing wrong with being a teacher. They are all excellent children. Jiraiya entered and sat down. Then he introduced them one by one. Everyone responded in the same way. Jingyan looked at Shizune next to him and greeted her calmly. Shizune, who had dared to argue with Tsunade before, now stood aside stiffly, glancing at the three of them from time to time, but when she saw Jingyan, she was obviously shocked. Kyouhiko was not a standout in school, with mediocre academic and practical performance. However, after not seeing him for 2 years, he graduated early and became Jiraiya's subordinate. Shizune was filled with curiosity, but now that Tsunade and Jiraiya were present, she didn't dare to ask. Tsunade glanced around. Sakumo's son. Then, she thought of the rumors about Sakumo a few days ago, and her eyes darkened as she looked at the second person. Sunset Red. As the daughter of Shinku, she must have some talent in illusion, but as for the rest, she glanced towards Jiraiya, feeling somewhat confused. Logically speaking, Kyouhiko does not match Jiraiya's abilities. Could this guy be going for the girl because of her looks? Tsunade's look gradually changed from confusion to seriousness and anger. Jiraiya understood his partner too well, and immediately waved his hands. His face turned pale, and whispered, "It's not what you think. Don't get me wrong." Then he coughed lightly. Kyouhiko, take everyone out to play first. I want to talk to Tsunade alone for a while. Yes. Kyouhiko nodded and led everyone out of the cubicle, but they didn't go far, just wandered around the downstairs area, mainly leaving space for Tsunade and Jiraiya to chat. Tsunade leaned her hands against the window and squinted her eyes looking down. Is that kid the one who has the final say in your team? I seem to have some impression of him, but not very deep. His grandmother is Senju Momoka, Jiraiya explained. Tsunade was slightly startled and looked down. Is he the descendant of Grandma Taohua? Yes, his parents are mediocre, but this child seems to have inherited the powerful bloodline of the Thousand Hands. What's even more rare is that his thinking and consciousness were very mature when he was a child. Jiraiya said in a serious tone, I think he has the potential to become the second Hokage. It's rare that you have such a high opinion. Tsunade leaned against the window and looked at the young man who was leading the group downstairs. Taohyua's descendant Senju Momoka was a close confidant of Senju Hashirama, and she used to call her aunt unconsciously. She has grandchildren. Unfortunately, Aunt Taohyua also died. Tsunade's eyes were dark. She sat back down, not in a very good mood. You don't want him to persuade me to return to Konoha, do you? I won't advise you to return to Konoha. Jiraiya shook his head. He knew Tsunade's situation, and forcing her to go back was just asking for trouble, and it would not help the overall situation. As a friend, he didn't want to force it. Jiraiya paused for a moment and got down to business. What do you think of Uchiha and I? What? Tsunade was slightly startled, then burst out laughing. You don't want her to be my disciple, do you? His talent for controlling chakra is top-notch. His body is a little weak, but he can make up for it with hard work. He is not completely incapable, Jiraiya replied. Tsunade was silent. That's not wrong. Those who are good at illusion often have very fine control over chakra. In terms of the body, it is true that some of it can be supplemented by acquired means, but there is also a limit, so it is also difficult for Ziri to obtain her complete inheritance. But if he could teach well, at least the village would have a new generation leader in medical ninjutsu. She thought for a moment. Let's learn it first. I'll take it as your promise. Zilai also laughed. Tsunade didn't object, but yawned. At this time, Jiraiya smiled and said, the last thing has the most to do with you besides? Well, Matsuyama Koji from the Blue Flower House asked me to bring you an IOU. Jiraiya's mouth widened with laughter. A piece of paper was pushed in front of Tsunade. Tsunade's face darkened instantly, the sleepiness from her yawning instantly dissipated. She glared at Jiraiya fiercely and said, You bastard. You have a good reputation after all, how can you escape the bill? Jiraiya pushed it over. Tsunade snorted coldly, took out a pen, and was about to sign her name on the IOU when her eyes suddenly rolled and she said, You have to give something in return for your disciple. Please help me pay off the debt. What? Anyway, you have a lot more money than I do. Tsunade smiled. Jiraiya's face froze. That's true, but didn't he send an IOU? How did you get yourself involved? Two girls walked in front. Kyouhiko and Kakashi followed behind. I didn't expect that Kyouhiko-kun would graduate early and become Jiraiya-sama's apprentice. Shizune said quietly. Uchiha and I couldn't help but smile. Kyouhiko graduating at the age of 7 is nothing. Kakashi graduated at the age of 5. This is different. Shizune shook her head. She sighed and said, Kakashi has been a genius since he was young. People of my generation almost grew up with the rumors about Kakashi, but Jingyan after all, people like Kai are a minority. Everyone has always admired Kakashi, but they also know that it is difficult for them to catch up with him. Jingyan is different. Who had heard of him before? Even though Shizune's impression of her classmates still remained at the age of 5, she would never have imagined that when they met again, the other person would have become a genius. Whenever she thought of this, she felt that things and people had changed. Jiraiya was about to ask something when the surroundings suddenly became quiet. Ahead is Tansho Castle, but at this moment birds fly into the sky and birds sing wrong. Jingyan's eyes became serious. Everyone, be careful. The next moment, silk threads suddenly appeared around them, and then kunai and shurikens flew towards them quickly. Jingyan immediately moved forward. In the air, he had completed chakra extraction and hand seals. Water escape water formation wall exclamation. The rushing water built a high wall, sheltering everyone in the middle. As soon as the kunai and shuriken touched the water, they were immediately swept away by the current and could not move forward even a bit. At the same time, cherry blossoms are falling. The art of falling Sakura. Kakashi disappeared in an instant. Behind the wall, masked ninjas rushed out one after another. There were more than a dozen of them. Capture them and exchange them for the young master. Someone shouted in the chaos. As the wall of water fell, Jingyan had already taken off his leggings and threw them aside. Be careful. Then he disappeared from the spot in an instant laugh exclamation. Jingyan held a kunai and pierced the throat of a ninja, and blood splattered all over him. End of this chapter. Chapter 15. Tsunade, you don't want anything to happen to Shizune, do you? Chapter 15. Tsunade, you don't want anything to happen to Shizune, do you? Bright red covered my eyes. A strong and pungent fishy smell invades the nose. This was Jingyan's first time killing someone. He couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. The next moment, a knife flashed before my eyes. Kakashi's white fang short blade killed the attacking ninjas as fast as the wind. Don't be distracted. He gave a brief warning, then raised his knife and killed the next person. Jingyan came back to his senses. Yes, this is a battlefield. There is no room for distraction. Fortunately, Kyouhiko's illusion and Kakashi's swordsmanship are helping him and preventing him from falling into danger. Jingyan came back to his senses. Kakashi, cooperate with me. Kakashi didn't understand what was going on, but he knew how Kyouhiko wanted him to cooperate. He quickly formed a seal. Lightning release, ground walking. Before the seal was finished, Jingyan had already arrived first. A large stream of water gushed out of his mouth and turned into a torrent that rolled forward. Several quick ninjas escaped instantly, but there were also a few slow ones that failed to avoid the current. Then, the electric current hit exclamation ah. The strong electric current caused those who had no time to escape to dance in the water, and their screams were intermittent. Kyouhiko had already cut off the jutsu. The ninjas who attacked them were extremely fast and cruel. When they saw their companions paralyzed by the electric current and unable to move, their first thought was not to save them, but to laugh exclamation. Steel needles came like raindrops, piercing the bodies of several people who didn't have time to escape. Jingyan and Kakashi immediately replaced their bodies and switched positions instantly. When he came out again after the noise stopped, the person who had attacked him had disappeared without a trace. Shizune stared at the scene from a distance. She had only a vague idea of Jingyan's abilities before, but now no wonder he could become Master Jiraiya's disciple. What a great speed! What a powerful water escape exclamation to reach this level. He must have practiced water escape for a long time, right? Shizune muttered. Zehong glanced at her and sighed. It took half a month. What? Shizune looked incredulous. Half a month, how can it be? Many chunins cannot reach this level of ninjutsu. Zehong sensed for a moment. They are running very fast. Let's go check if Kyouhiko and Kakashi are injured. Oh yes, yes. Jingyan wakes up from a dream. Everything that happened before was so shocking that she forgot that she was in the middle of a battle. Kakashi, Kyouhiko, are you okay? Uchiha and Shizune rushed over. In Hong's hand, she still held Jingyan's leggings. This thing is pretty heavy exclamation. We're fine. Shizune, can you see if these people can be saved? In front, the 5 people who had just been paralyzed by the electric current all fell to the ground. Ah. Shizune nodded and walked towards the people behind the ancient wall. Kakashi and Kyouhiko stood on her left and right, protecting her from any sudden attacks from those who were not yet dead. Pity Jingyan looked at a few of them and they all held their breath. The needle is highly poisonous. A few seconds passed. This guy is still breathing. He must be treated immediately. I'll go call Lady Tsunade. Kakashi put away his sword and was about to go back where he came from. If we can save a person alive, we might be able to dig out some intelligence. Shizune hesitated for a moment, but ultimately did not explain. Instead, she tried to use healing techniques to maintain her remaining vitality and tried to extract the poison. But it's a pity. She has not yet fully mastered the technique of extracting the microorganisms. A few seconds later, Jiraiya and Kakashi arrived, but Tsunade was still far away. Jiraiya looked at him. Don't waste chakra, he's already beyond help. He squatted down. Then, Jiraiya looked at Kyouhiko. You and Kakashi have actually fought against them, so you know their styles and methods best. What do you think their origins are? The style and methods are similar to those of the Sunagakure ninjas, but I don't think they did it before. They did shout that they would capture us and exchange us, but does such ability look like that of a wandering ninja? Jingyan expressed his thoughts. It doesn't make sense. The Sand Village also suffered heavy losses in the Second Ninja World War, with many of its core members killed. The best choice now is to recuperate and now, the third Kazekage is alive and well, and now he is attacking Konoha. That's really a bit hard to understand. Jiraiya looked at the scene, then took out a sealing scroll and sealed all the bodies inside. Take it back and let a professional take a look. Maybe they can find some traces. He couldn't tell his origin either. Outside, Tsunade asked calmly, "What's going on?" It's hard to tell, but I don't think he's a wandering ninja. Maybe some ninja village is trying to frame us and start a fight with the Sand Village. Jiraiya said. This is also Kakashi's judgment. After all, the attackers' attack patterns were so obvious that they seemed unlikely, but Jingyan's thoughts turned and he felt that this was his chance. He raised his hand. Teacher, explain. We just arrived at Tancho Street today, and we are here only to carry out a C-rank mission. There are no serious ninjas in the Land of Rivers, and Hirakawa Ken is not a big shot. Jingyan looked at Tsunade and said hesitantly, "Are they coming for Lady Tsunade?" Tsunade raised an eyebrow. "Kid, do you think this kind of stuff can handle me?" "Definitely not, but that may not be the case for Jingyan." Jingyan started the conversation, and the logic quickly became clear. He said, "I've heard a little about you. You've been away for more than a year, so you should have owed more than the money to the Blue and White Pavilion, right?" Tsunade's face darkened. "Good guy!" This is the only hobby I have. How come everyone seems to know? Itch glanced at Jiraiya unkindly. Although there was no sound, Jiraiya understood the words and waved his hand quickly. "I didn't say that." "You mean, they want to arrest Jingyan and blackmail me into paying you back?" "It could also be for other purposes, such as having you go to their place to study ninjutsu, or teach them ninjutsu," Jingyan said. After all, they didn't catch the gang of wandering warriors. The other party may have learned certain information through them. Tsunade was silent. These words are not alarmist. Outsiders don't know her condition, but with Shizune following her, it could indeed become her weakness if she's not careful. Jiraiya looked serious. "Tsunade, what Kyouhiko said makes sense. You know your situation well. You need to consider Shizune's safety." Tsunade saw Shizune's face turned pale. "Is Tsunade going to send her back to Konoha?" "Shizune, why don't you go back to Konoha?" "Tsunade, it's just as unsafe for you to be out there alone." Jiraiya's tone gradually hardened. "Why don't you go back to the village and take a look? I'll ask the old man to check what's going on. You can leave after the dust settles." Tsunade hesitated for a moment. In the more than 1 year since she left the village, Jingyan has been the one taking care of her daily life. If you mute it back, she really wasn't used to it. If Shizune goes back, she won't be able to participate in the ninja team assignment in a short time, right? Should we arrange for her to return to the ninja school? Jingyan whispered. Jiraiya secretly gave a thumbs up. This kid is so smart, he has Tsunade under his control completely! Although usually, Shizune is more of a follower, but Tsunade definitely considers Shizune as a relative. Otherwise she wouldn't have left the village with only her. Tsunade must be very concerned about Shizune's safety and future. Tsunade stared at Kyouhiko with an unfriendly look. She had to admit, the other party really hit the nail on the head. It's late. No matter what, we have to rest for a night in Tancho Street. End of this chapter. Chapter 16. For the sake of peace, I want to be Hokage. Chapter 16. For the sake of peace, I want to be Hokage. Hostel. The group sat together, eating the famous takeout food from Tancho Street. Tsunade and Jiraiya drank sake and seemed to be a little drunk. Jingyan felt uneasy. Because from the beginning of eating until now, Tsunade's eyes have been looking at him from time to time. Isn't it just taking advantage of the situation to make some money? I am indeed a good person for silence! Jingyan buried his head in eating. Jiraiya said, Tsunade, when do we leave tomorrow? When did I say I was going back? Tsunade lowered her head. Tomorrow, you can help me take Shizune back. Jingyan was standing aside, wanting to add fuel to the fire, but he knew very well that it was not the right time for him to speak. Jiraiya, Shizune, you too. Give it some strength! Lady Tsunade, I won't leave your body. Shizune stood up in a hurry. She understands. Although Tsunade is very powerful, she suffers from hemophobia. If the opponent really wants to catch Tsunade, he can easily do it by shedding blood. How could she feel at ease? Jiraiya said, Tsunade, you understand your situation yourself. Do you really want to take the risk? Kakashi and Uchiha were full of doubts. Lady Tsunade, what is the problem? They listened curiously, but didn't dare to ask. Tsunade sneered and said, a medical ninja with hemophobia. What can I do if I go back? What? Kakashi and Uchiha were immediately shocked. Hemophobia! No wonder Lady Tsunade wants to leave Konoha. Once you suffer from this disease, you can basically say goodbye to your ninja career. This is especially true for medical ninjas. Normally, surgery is necessary to treat injuries and diseases, but if you suffer from this disease, you can basically say goodbye to surgery. But Tsunade is the pride of Konoha's medical ninjas. Jingyan was also slightly surprised. Tsunade's defense was broken. What I didn't even expect was, she didn't wait for Jiraiya to answer, and looked directly at Kyouhiko. Little ghost, you were quite talkative before. Tell me, what can I do if I go back? Tsunade's eyes were dark. Jingyan was stunned for a moment, but then he was delighted and immediately sorted out his thoughts. The opportunity is coming. I don't know about medical ninjutsu or hemophobia, but I know that for a ninja like you, experience, skills, and reputation are quite useful. For example, Shizune, under your guidance, isn't her medical ninjutsu improving day by day? Shizune nodded repeatedly. Tsunade didn't answer, but just drank another glass in silence. If being a teacher isn't what you're after, then why don't you try to be a Hokage? If there are policies you're not happy with or don't agree with, resolve them as Hokage. Jingyan's expression was serious. Konoha's perfect medical ninja system has saved many ninjas, and your status and prestige are enough to become Hokage. Kyouhiko. Jiraiya was panicked when he heard this. This kid is just saying whatever he wants. Naruto, this is Tsunade's most sensitive topic! Tsunade sneered. Boy, Naruto, what do you know? I'm young and I really don't understand, but I will aim to become Hokage and accomplish what I want to accomplish. There was seriousness and earnestness on Jingyan's young face. Kakashi and Uchiha didn't even blink. Kyouhiko's thoughts and conversation made them feel like a senior of the same age as Jiraiya and Tsunade, rather than appear also so brave! How dare they say such things? Other party is Tsunade. Tsunade was also stunned. She began to understand what Jiraiya meant by thinking and ideas. This child's thinking is not on the same level as ordinary children. It's simply a dimensionality reduction attack. In Jingyan, she seemed to vaguely see the shadows of the other two people. Tsunade paused. Jingyan continued to eat, without paying any attention to the center of his gaze. He ate his meal calmly. Jiraiya was drinking, but his eyes were actually always on Tsunade. He was very afraid of Tsunade slamming the table! The kind that gets ruined, but Tsunade just smiled, even though her smile was a little scary, but in the end, no action was taken. Are you dissatisfied with the village? Not satisfied. Jingyan put down his bowl and chopsticks. He said seriously, we all lost our loved ones in the war. Should we be satisfied with the current situation of the village? I want to become Hokage and eliminate war. Jiraiya's eyelids twitched. This child is quite heroic, like a man dancing on a grave. Tsunade propped her head up and glanced at Kyouhiko, her expression quite calm. Eliminating war. It's not that easy. As long as you don't try, you won't be disappointed. I don't think that's right. Jingyan cleared the dishes. Output completed, run away exclamation. He stood up and bowed. Sorry, I have to go to training. Kakashi also quickly finished eating and quickly echoed the words, seizing the opportunity to run away. The atmosphere is so depressing. It's better to train. Tsunade half leaned over, looking at Shizune and Yuhai, her tone calm. You're not going to train? I'm full too. Zihai Hong was so frightened that her face turned pale. She immediately stopped eating, put down her bowl and chopsticks, bowed, and left quickly. Jingyan was still a little worried. Tsunade looked intimidating at this moment, but she was more worried that Tsunade would ignore her and just leave at this moment. Tsunade can do it. She hesitated for a moment and said, I'll go outside. Jiraiya and Tsunade were the only ones left in the room. The two drank and no one spoke. After a few seconds, Tsunade snorted coldly, drank the wine in her hand in one gulp, and was about to drink another glass in a depressed manner. Jiraiya stopped him. Stop drinking. You can't drink wine anymore. Tsunade glanced at it, then silently finished her next drink without drinking any more. After a while, she threw away the bottle. Gone where to? Let's get some fresh air on the rooftop. Tsunade waved. The two went to the rooftop. Looking down from here, you can see Kyouhiko, Kakashi and the others training below. Hokage, what's so good about this position? Jiraiya couldn't answer, because he was also not very enthusiastic about the position of Hokage, otherwise he would definitely have been nominated for the next generation Hokage. Tsunade raised her eyes. I was scolded like this by your students, and you don't want to show your support. For example, you can stand guard for your students and change those old guys in the village. I'm going to be the Hokage, and I'm the one you want to solve the problem with. Jiraiya's face turned red. Tsunade fiddled with a wine bottle, her eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. Let's go back and see which side sent these guys out first, and find out clearly first. If it's safe, I won't stop you from leaving, Jiraiya said. Tsunade lowered her head and didn't respond. Under the three of them worked very hard. We'll see. You successfully persuaded a wandering cage-level ninja disabled and elite genin to return to the village. Successful introduction of talents is the key to the village's prosperity. Please continue to work hard. Hokage reward. Super strength beginner. What the hell? It actually worked! Jingyan pondered for a while and roughly understood the situation of the strange power technique. Entry-level supernatural powers only require basic skills and knowledge. More in-depth ones require one's own understanding and practice, and this technique requires extremely strong chakra control ability. For beginners of supernatural powers, you need to master this aspect yourself. In other words, is there a certain risk in using it and many more? This reward is not right. Tsunade is back. Why is it only the entry-level supernatural power technique? Jingyan glanced at the explanation. Temporarily disabled. It seems the problem lies in these two. Fine. Jingyan had no good solution for the time being. He could only comfort himself. What bike do you want? It's good enough to learn the art of super strength. If you continue to explore and practice slowly, and then find ways to get some rewards from Tsunade, there is still hope that you will gradually become proficient or even more proficient. End of this chapter. Chapter 17. Only half a month, quite ordinary. Chapter 17. Only half a month, quite ordinary. The next day, Short Book Street. Jiraiya returned to the blue and white pavilion. Mr. Sonshin, this is your IOU. You can bring it here when you come to Konoha next time. I will have the money ready by then. Are you coming to return it? Matsuyama Koji asked carefully. Jiraiya smiled and said, Don't worry, I'm just transferring the debt from you to me. Matsuyama Koji hesitated for a moment and said, You'd better not pay for her gambling. A fat sheep like this will lose money wherever she goes. Even you may not be able to afford it. At the back, Kyouhiko suppressed his smile and the urge to look back at Tsunade, and put on a serious face however. Jiraiya coughed lightly and said, I will advise her. I can't persuade them. We have seen this kind of addiction many times in our casino. They all say they want to change, but they will still come here secretly next time. Matsuyama Koji was also sincere, otherwise, as a casino owner, how could he say such a thing? Jiraiya forced a smile. Well, let's not talk about this. Next time you come to Konoha to entrust a mission, I will treat you well and we can talk then. The one in Konoha should be my uncle Akiro Matsuyama. He is in charge of the business in the east. He is in charge of the business with Cardo. Matsuyama Koji explained. Jiraiya nodded. No problem, I'll contact you then. Okay, go back and persuade your friend. Her luck is really not suitable for gambling. After all, it's rare for someone like her to not win a single bet. Matsuyama Koji said kindly, but bang exclamation, there was a loud bang. The door at the back was blown down. Tsunade had a dark face, and the green clothes with the word gambling on them were particularly eye-catching. Her eyes were as sharp as knives and she spoke every word with great emphasis. Hey, I've been putting up with you for so long. Calm down, calm down. He's just a casino owner, don't bother with him. Shizune held onto Tsunade tightly. So skilled that it makes people feel distressed. Jingyan quickly looked away and focused his attention on the door that was smashed open next to him. The chakra that exploded just now was the application of super strength. Tsunade is so skilled. An outburst like this can be achieved easily and does not require any deliberate control or accumulation. This is at least master level, right? Jingyan thought to himself. Matsuyama Koji hid behind Jiraiya, his face pale. This woman has such terrifying power. Kakashi was wearing a mask, but judging from his eyes he must have been quite shocked. There is a huge contrast between Tsunade's appearance and the destructive power she caused. That's it for now, we'll take our leave now. Jiraiya immediately took Tsunade and ran away. If you don't run away now, you will have to pay for the door later! Exclamation. How dare Matsuyama Yukaji chase after him? He came to his senses. Such a powerful strength, a good relationship with Jiraiya, a gambler, a big fat sheep, all these descriptions added together result in only one person. One of the legendary three ninjas. Tsunade hiss exclamation. Matsuyama Koji had also heard a little about this princess. He is very powerful but has a bad temper. What a blessing. Another day of being the boss. Tsunade, you really have a bad temper, and what people say is not wrong. Jiraiya couldn't help but say. Tsunade glanced at him coldly and then remained silent. Naturally, her luck in gambling is terrible, but she was not in a position to talk about some of the metaphysical things, such as if you are too lucky, something bad will happen to someone you care about. Tsunade would rather have bad luck. At least, this shows that the people you care about are safe. She didn't explain. We walked all the way to Konoha, and after a while, everyone stopped to rest. Tsunade was sitting there and suddenly glanced at Kyouhiko. Little devil, come here. Jingyan looked around and then confirmed that the person Tsunade called was him. He had no choice but to walk over. Tsunade-sama, sit down. What ninjutsu do you know? Tsunade asked. Jingyan counted the ninjutsu he had mastered. Tsunade frowned at that. At the back, she couldn't help but ask, didn't you learn illusion? No. Jingyan shook his head. Tsunade was slightly surprised. Why? It wasn't passed down. Back then, even ninjas from other countries knew about Senjumamoka's illusion technique, so it should not be without inheritance. Jingyan explained. My grandmother's illusion technique is indeed very powerful, but my father and mother were not very talented, so it was not passed down. There are a few scrolls at home, but I did not learn them. Those illusions are not very powerful, but are extremely difficult. so they are not a top priority therefore. Jingyan prioritized physical training at the time. After hearing this, Tsunade asked again, "How long have you been learning water jutsu?" "It's been more than half a month, and I'm still not very proficient." Jingyan looked ashamed. Tsunade was silent for a moment. This kid to have reached this level in just half a month. You are already a genius among ninjas. There is nothing for you to be ashamed of! Exclamation, not a human being. Right, her eyes gradually turned unfriendly. Little devil, do you want to be beaten? As a ninja, I should pursue more perfect techniques. I am still far from it. Jingyan answered seriously. Jiraiya was standing nearby, quietly giving a thumbs up. Brave. He has already started lighting candles for Jingyan. Tsunade raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Instead her smile widened and she gently patted the child's shoulder. You said before that although I'm afraid of blood, experience and skills are very useful. I think I should start testing it on you. Thank you, Lady Tsunade. Jingyan thanked him respectfully. Tsunade's test is by no means easy, and it might be painful, but there are countless people who want Tsunade's guidance but have no way to do so. Such a rare opportunity, no matter how much hardship you have to endure. Kakashi and Kyouhiko standing beside them were extremely envious and kept glancing over here. In this era, which young girl doesn't idolize Tsunade? She had always dreamed of becoming Tsunade's student. She would be so happy if she had the chance to get guidance from her. Unfortunately, when she graduated, Tsunade had already taken Shizune away, and she didn't even have the chance to become Tsunade's student. Now she understands the reason. Hemophobia. The type of illness that all ninjas fear. Thinking of this, Jiraiya couldn't help but feel sad. After a short rest, everyone got back on the road. On the way, although Tsunade didn't believe that anyone would come for her and Jiraiya, she still maintained a high level of caution. Hokage building. The third Hokage was stunned when he heard this. What? Lady Tsunade is back and is now 10 minutes away from Konoha. Exclamation. Saruto by Hiruzen's stunned expression gradually turned into confusion. Tsunade is back. For a moment, he didn't know how to face it, and many complicated emotions surged in his heart. Finally, Saruto by Hiruzen let out a breath. I see. You can go down. There's no need to make a big fuss about this. Yes. The Anbu ninja saluted and immediately left the Hokage's office. Wait for his men to leave. Saruto by Hiruzen lit his pipe, looked in the direction of the Konoha.Gate, and after a long time, he exhaled a long puff of smoke. End of this chapter. Chapter 18. You don't want anyone to know that you hit someone, right? Chapter 18. You don't want anyone to know that you hit someone, right? Tsunade saw the gate from afar, and a trace of sigh and memories flashed in her eyes. The former Lei Shuhi died while on a mission. The ones guarding the gate now are Hinde and Tsuchihara, two newly promoted Chunins. Newly promoted, no wonder I haven't seen him before. After more than a year away, Konoha is still the same Konoha, without much change, but the person standing at the door has changed a lot. She sighed. The face that originally showed expectation now showed a trace of loneliness, and the mood became dull. However, to the village entrance. Lady Tsunade. Lady Tsunade is back. What? Two people at the entrance of the village exclaimed. Immediately, at the door, all the ninjas and villagers passing by stopped and swarmed in. Tsunade-sama. Master Tsunade, you're back. Where is Lady Tsunade? I want to see. Amid the noisy sounds, accompanied by the voices of parents comforting their children, children were lifted up one by one and looked towards the village entrance from afar. Most of these children have only grown up in the past 1 or 2 years, and they have no impression of Tsunade before. But it's obvious. Under the influence of their parents, they still knew Tsunade's name and admired her deeply. In just a blink of an eye, the fairly spacious entrance to the village was already surrounded by the crowd that was gradually pouring in. Tsunade was stunned. She had unspeakable emotions in her heart, and the words were stuck in her throat. unable to be expressed. Don't block it, spread out. Handa waved. The crowd outside finally made way. Jiraiya walked up behind Tsunade and the group made their way inside. Kakashi, who is usually calm, was so excited that his forehead turned red. You can see what kind of expression he had under the mask. Sunset red is also but, in such a scene, few people can remain calm in the center of attention. In this generation, many people were protected and treated by Tsunade. Even in the era of Naruto in later generations, there were still many people who admired Tsunade very much. This is a clear example. Go all the way. When they arrived near the Hokage building, the crowd gradually dispersed under the organization of the ninjas. Entering the building, Tsunade couldn't help but lean against the wall and look at Jiraiya. You go back and report. I won't go, it is good. I never forced it. The C-rank mission is not very important. We don't need to report together. Kakashi, Hong, you can go first. Go back and have a good rest. We will gather for training tomorrow. I took a break, too. Tsunade yawned. Jingyan quickly asked, Tsunade-sama, are the words you said before still valid? What? Tsunade was stunned for a moment, then recalled what had happened, then understood immediately and said with a smile, do you really want to be beaten? A ninja like you, we Genin have never had the chance to learn from you, so how could we not want to? Jingyan speaks quite directly. Shizune couldn't help but admire in her heart. If she had not seen Tsunade's strength, she would have thought that Jingyan's words were just the result of ignorance and fearlessness, but even though he had seen Tsunade's power and knew the difference between them, he still dared to bring it up. That's quite courageous. Tsunade smiled and said, good boy, you are very brave. She paused and looked at Kakashi and Kyouhiko. What about you two? We also want your advice. Kakashi and Kyouhiko responded quickly. Tsunade put her hands on her hips and said, well, we have nothing to do anyway. Tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock in the Death Forest, don't be afraid to come. Definitely arriving. Everyone shouted in unison. Jingyan was envious, but she didn't ask to join them. She had been wandering and traveling with Tsunade, and had long been half a student of Tsunade's. She had received a lot of guidance, so there was not much point in her getting involved this time. Hokage's office. Jiraiya informed the third Hokage of the situation on the road, and at the same time lifted the seal and took out one of the bodies. Saruto by Hiruzen looked serious. In your opinion, what are the chances that they will come for Tsunade? It's hard to judge. Jiraiya shook his head. At that time, he was not at the first scene, so a lot of information could not be fully collected. One thing is certain, the other party must want to capture them alive. The target may be Tsunade, Shizune, or Kyouhiko, Kakashi and others. The first wave of ninja tool attacks were not poisoned, so the possibility of murder and framing is not high. Is that so? Saruto by Hiruzen narrowed his eyes. Then, he looked at Jiraiya. What do you think next? I promised Matsuyama Koji that I will go to Wave Country later and observe the situation carefully, but I also hope you can help investigate. Jiraiya said. Saruto by Hiruzen nodded. I'll arrange this. I'm leaving. Now that Tsunade is back, you better be careful and don't do anything ridiculous again. Saruto by Hiruzen said. Jiraiya's face froze, then he coughed lightly, waved his hand and jumped out of the window. The next day, at the 10th training ground in the Death Forest. This time, there was no need to prepare the examination room in advance, and the three of them were not taking the exam together, but one-on-one. Tsunade stood there very comfortably. Will you guys go up one by one, or all together? Tsunade pointed at the three of them. Kakashi and Kyouhiko looked hesitant. Going together tests teamwork. Going one by one tests individual strength. Can I have them all? Jingyan whispered. Although he is still a child, as a spiritual adult, I have to be all. Tsunade laughed in silence, and then said unhappily, you are too greedy, little brat. Be careful that you will be beaten so hard that you can't get out of bed today. Not afraid. Jingyan mustered up his courage. Of course I'm afraid, but if you back down from a free cage level ninja sparring match due to cowardice, you'd be a fool. Ninjas are fearless. Kakashi and Kyouhiko also nodded repeatedly, agreeing with Jingyan's answer. You're not afraid, but I don't want to waste any more effort. Let's go one-on-one between the three of us. Who will go first? There's nothing wrong with Tsunade. Come here. There is no difference between beating him once and beating him 3 times, but when it is 1 against 3, it is still a bit tricky. I'll come first. Kakashi reacted quickly and immediately took a step forward. Jingyan withdrew his foot regretfully. It seems, in terms of innate reaction ability, Kakashi is still much better than himself. He thought to himself, very good. Tsunade raised the corner of her mouth slightly, and then drew a circle on the ground with her left foot. I just want to beat people up, and I'm too lazy to move much, so I'll only use one hand, and you will win as long as you can find a way to force me out of the circle. Kakashi looked intently at the battlefield. The circle is very small, with almost no space on the left and right. Such a range can the detonating talisman be used. Of course, ninja tools are also part of a ninja's strength. Tsunade's lips curled up slightly. Kakashi nodded. I'm fine now. Then let's get started. The voice just fell. Tsunade stared at Kakashi with a rather casual attitude, but Kakashi's forehead was covered with sweat. His lips were trembling, his hands were shaking, and he stood there motionless. Jiraiya was confused. Illusion? But I don't sense any chakra fluctuations. It's not an illusion, it's just pure murderous intent. Jingyan's expression was serious. In the anime, Kakashi was twice so oppressed by Orochimaru's murderous aura that he dared not take action. By that time, he was already a Jonin. Nowadays Kakashi is just a Chunin, but he has to face the oppression of a cage-level ninja like Tsunade. The pressure he is under can be imagined. End of this chapter. Chapter 19 Tsunade, not very strong, but very cunning. Chapter 19 Tsunade, not very strong, but very cunning. What an amazing murderous aura! Exclamation move. Get moving! Exclamation. Kakashi gritted his teeth. A trace of blood flowed from his lips, and finally, call out! Exclamation. In an instant, his chakra exploded and a faint electric current surged. Lightning chakra stimulates the body. Even though it was imperfect, Kakashi didn't dare to be careless facing Tsunade at this moment. His speed reached the maximum that he could achieve. However, the next second, bang! Exclamation. How quickly you come, how quickly you are knocked away. In the blink of an eye, Kakashi was blasted against a tree and couldn't move. Tsunade put her hands on her hips and said, Shizune, go check if the injury is serious. Yes. Shizune went over in an instant. Kakashi stood up, coughed up blood gently, and then waved his hand to indicate that he was fine. He stood there, lost in thought. Don't understand? Tsunade's lips curled up slightly. Although bullying children is not a big deal, it does feel good, especially for this group of geniuses. She laughed and said, Kid, you are very fast. Using your unskilled lightning chakra to stimulate your physical activity can make your speed reach a very terrifying level, but you can't control it. Then, Tsunade's expression became serious. Uncontrollable speed is a deadly double-edged sword. Either the enemy dies, or just like before, I only need one finger to defeat you. Tsunade snapped her fingers. She really only used one finger. There was a big red and swollen bump on Kakashi's forehead. This is still holding back. If he used all his strength to snap his fingers, Kakashi's head would be smashed to pieces even if he didn't point his finger at the target. Not everyone is as tough as Orochimaru. Kakashi had previously felt that there was something wrong with his previous thinking and direction, and now this had further confirmed his suspicions. Speed doesn't work. Detonating talismans with Tsunade's level of reaction and strength. Kakashi didn't think the detonating tag could reach the range that could threaten Tsunade. Try your knife skills." He drew out the blade, his eyes sharp again. Then, Kakashi stepped forward again, with one hand holding the blade, the other hand holding the detonating talisman. This time he controlled the speed. Tsunade's lips curled up slightly. The moment the blade strikes, he moves sideways to avoid it, then holds the knife with his fingers. "Then, flick your fingers." Kakashi held the blade tightly to prevent the white fang short knife from flying out, but his knuckles were bleeding from the shock. Lightning release chakra infusion. The blade became sharper, and there was a faint flash of lightning. He tried to use the properties of lightning chakra to paralyze Tsunade's fingers, but unfortunately the chakra was defeated by Tsunade's finger snap as soon as it was condensed. However, Kakashi also achieved his goal. He slapped the ground with his left hand and used the force to quickly retreat. The next moment, dust suddenly flew up. Boom! Exclamation! The detonating talisman exploded in the air. Tsunade stood up and blew the dust off her fingertips. "Any more?" "Bon." Kakashi was confused, then shook his head helplessly. This won't work. He really had no other choice. Next, Kakashi was defeated in 2 rounds and stopped trying. Zihong was shocked. Is this the difference between the 3 ninjas and them? He enclosed his territory and sealed it off, and with just 1 finger, he was still able to defeat them so badly that they couldn't find their way even. The murderous aura alone is enough to create a terrifying effect like an illusion. Do not! Exclamation! Strictly speaking, that thing is stronger than illusion. Illusions can be solved, but if the murderous aura cannot be blocked by willpower and momentum, you may really lose your life on the battlefield. She was about to stand up. Jingyan took a step forward. "I come." The kid from the Haddock family surrendered very readily. "I hope you can hold out a little longer, at least as hard as you talk." Tsunade smiled. Jingyan just said, "I'll try my best." "Okay, come on." Tsunade wiggled her fingers. She really only used 1 finger! Exclamation! But the murderous aura was like a mountain, pressing towards him. Jingyan was stuck in a quagmire. This feeling compared to Tsunade's murderous intent, those wandering samurai and the ninjas who attacked them were nothing. If Tsunade was like this, what about Orochimaru? No wonder just the look in his eyes frightened Kakashi, a senior ninja. None of the Sannin and Cage level 1s are simple. Jingyan gritted his teeth. Although there is a huge gap in their strength now, they must not be timid because of the murderous intent. Must withstand it. He kept repeating, "Become stronger and stay alive" in his mind, and his will gradually became stronger. "I have a system. I want to become stronger and keep living, so how can I be frightened by murderous aura?" Jingyan rushed out in an instant. Kakashi's eyes widened. This like him. Tsunade narrowed her eyes slightly, and then her fingers suddenly pointed behind her. Bang! Exclamation! Chakra flow rolled out like an air sword, splitting the ground and causing it to crack, while the figure in front of her turned into a piece of wood. The combination of clone and substitute Kakashi understood. Jingyan knows very few techniques, only the 3-body technique and the instant body technique, so he likes to combine these techniques in combat. That was the tactic of making a feint to the east and attacking in the west, but at such a fast speed it is difficult to judge the truth or falsehood in an instant. If Kyouhiko's enemy is a Chunin, it will definitely be effective. Pity. His enemy is Tsunade. Tsunade smiled and said, "Yes, you are better than Kakashi in controlling speed." Kakashi couldn't argue with that. At this moment, Jingyan was standing under a tree in the distance, leaning against the trunk and gasping for a breath. He looked very embarrassed, but he was indeed not hit. In fact, the terrifying murderous aura and the fingers that empowered the supernatural power. Jingyan almost thought he was going to die! Exclamation! But at the last moment, Tsunade's chakra was exhausted and she only hit him so hard that his shoulder hurt. But it was obvious that this was definitely the result of Tsunade's careful manipulation, too exaggerated. With such chakra control ability in the entire ninja world, except for Uchiha Madara who is hiding underground, no one else should be stronger than her. No wonder she can cure diseases that others can't. Are you coming again? Come. Jingyan came forward again, but he did not rush to attack, but kept moving forward and backward, jumping back and forth within Tsunade's attack range. Tsunade was initially quite fearful, but after a few times, she couldn't help but laugh and said, "You don't think this will deplete my chakra, do you?" "Certainly will not." The sound comes from far to near. Tsunade suddenly dodged sideways. A kunai flew out from her side. Using sound and speed changes to confuse judgment, this kid isn't as strong as Kakashi, but he's several times smarter than Kakashi. Aren't they both 7 years old? Tsunade had a flash of thought, but the next moment her eyes widened. She sensed that Jingyan's arms were refining and condensing chakra at a high speed. "This is... do not!" Impossible! Tsunade was in disbelief for a moment. The next moment, rocks and soil flew everywhere and the ground cracked. The whole circle was smashed. Kakashi, Kurenai Yuhai, and Shizune were stunned. The destructive power it turned out to be Jingyan! How can it be? Isn't this Lady Tsunade's technique? How did Jingyan learn this? But what surprised her even more was the next moment, a huge explosion occurred over there, submerging Tsunade and Kyouhiko at the same time. "Tsunade-sama, Kyouhiko." Shizune was shocked and instantly turned to worry. "Kyouhiko." Jiraiya became even more anxious. Tsunade will definitely not be killed by the explosion, but the same may not be true for Kyouhiko. But the next moment, she sensed that Tsunade and Kyouhiko had escaped. Take a closer look. Tsunade was holding Kyouhiko with a serious look on her face, but from a distance, one could still see her body trembling. Blood gushed out rapidly from Jingyan's arm. "He got hurt. I'll treat you." Shizune rushed forward immediately. End of this chapter. Chapter 20, Old Man, Where is my second grandfather's book? Chapter 20, Old Man, Where is my second grandfather's book? The entire arm was stained red with blood. Jingyan hadn't expected this at all. The entry-level technique actually consumed so much energy and caused unimaginable backlash to his arms, so that he didn't even have the ability to escape at the last moment. Shizune checked the injuries and said anxiously, "Go to the hospital immediately." "You can't send her to the hospital." Jingyan endured the pain and said, "Send him to the hospital or Tsunade-sama's affair will be exposed. You should treat me first and heal the surface wound." After listening to this, Jingyan hesitated for a while and then she felt that it made sense. On the side, Tsunade was still in fear. Shizune immediately gritted her teeth and said, "Okay, I'll do it." But cold sweat was already pouring down her forehead. Shizune did learn a lot of medical knowledge and ninjutsu, but she had very little chakra, and secondly, she didn't practice enough. This kind of operation is extremely difficult for her. Zihong said, "I have studied for more than half a month and no basic medical skills. Can I help?" "Can." Shizune was overjoyed. Kakashi stood aside, silent. He has never practiced, so it is definitely not possible. Then, Shizune talked about how to treat it and how Yuhai Kurenai should cooperate. She doesn't need Yuhai Kurenai to do much. Just use medical chakra to stimulate cell activity and help her share some of the pressure. Time passes by. The wound on Jingyan's arm was healing slowly. The corresponding is Shizune's forehead was already covered with cold sweat. After a long time, "Kakashi, help me." "What?" Kakashi stepped forward immediately. Jingyan stretched out his good hand and formed half of the Chen seal. Kakashi understood. He extracted chakra and replenished the other half. Then ugly, Mao. Water escape technique, water chaos wave. The two of them formed seals, but the spell was not stable and they could only spit out a small amount of water. They were unable to perform the spell in its entirety, but Jingyan just wanted to use it to wash his hands. The blood was flushed down. The wound on the arm has basically healed. Let's change places, it is good. Shizune understood his thoughts, and together with Hong, she supported Tsunade and pulled them to the side where there was no blood. It's been a while. Tsunade came to her senses, her face gloomy, and she first treated the internal injuries on Kyouhiko's hand. A long silence followed. After a long while, she said, "As you can see, I can't even complete basic treatment right now." Everyone was silent. Tsunade's condition should be considered as post-war psychological syndrome, and it is a relatively serious one, so she still needs to rely more on her own adjustment. As for psychological counseling, in a situation like Tsunade's, how can it be resolved with just a few words? If that were the case, Jiraiya and the others would have done it long ago. Jingyan was standing by and sighed inwardly. Tsunade, however, recovered. In other words, she had recovered long ago, otherwise she would not have been able to help Jingyan complete the hand treatment. She didn't say anything just now, but because Jingyan's experience made her think of the past again. Tsunade shook her head and said seriously, "Let's not talk about this. Jingyan, how did you learn the technique just now? Your power itself is not so terrifying." Then I kept observing it and felt that it should be the explosion of power achieved through chakra. I don't have the ability to force you out of the circle, but if I can achieve a similar effect to attract attention, I can use the detonating talisman to achieve my goal. Jingyan finished explaining and lowered his head with a shameful expression. At this moment, even the mask couldn't hide Kakashi's shocked expression. "Observe and then you learned it." "Oh no." Strictly speaking, Jingyan was just trying it casually, and when it failed he used it to attract attention. The key was still the detonating talisman. There was indeed an explosion just now. After hearing this, Tsunade couldn't help but say, "Your idea is good, but it's too reckless. This kind of high-speed chakra gathering technique will have very serious consequences if it fails. It can't be learned or imitated casually. Fortunately, you succeeded this time. Of course you have to learn it before you use it," Jingyan thought. However, on the surface, he seemed to admit his mistake. "I was wrong." Tsunade glared at him but didn't lecture him further. After all, he can guess the direction of the technique after just a few glances and use it successfully. Such talent is truly abnormal! This kid is the type with extremely high comprehension. Tsunade remembered that there was only one person who could compare to him. Orochimaru! She was lost in memories of the past. Kakashi was also recalling the battle just now. Sometimes, he suspected that he was the rookie Genin, not the Chunin who had graduated for a year or two. The atmosphere fell silent for a moment. "Kyouhiko-kun is amazing. I can't learn it even if I want to." Shizune was extremely envious. Tsunade said, "You are too weak, and you don't have a strong talent for chakra control. If you force yourself to learn and use it, you will end up like him, or even worse than him." Shizune stuck out her tongue. Tsunade gave another lecture. "Naturally, everyone wants to learn this kind of skill, but the threshold is quite high and not something that ordinary people can master." Finally, Tsunade looked at Kurenai. "Do you want to try it?" "I'm sorry, my strength is far from enough, but I still want to ask for Tsunade-sama's guidance." Sehihong bowed. Tsunade nodded. "You are not a big deal." Then she drew circles on the spot. Kurenai first used illusion, but it was easily broken by Tsunade. Later, she tried to combine the clone technique with illusion and detonating tags to disrupt the battle, but Tsunade was always able to accurately see through it and quickly counterattack. Soon, Hong was defeated. "Okay, tell me one by one." Tsunade sat cross-legged. After a fight, she had completely forgotten the blood stimulation just now and she regained her elegant demeanor. "Kakashi, your ultimate speed is faster than Jingyan's, but Jingyan can flexibly control and use his speed, and you are far inferior in this aspect. This is where you need to improve," Tsunade said, pausing slightly to sort out her words. If you want to go the route of assassination and killing with one blow, I suggest you learn a ninjutsu with powerful single-point destructive power. Yes, thank you Tsunade-sama. Kakashi thanked him quickly. Tsunade looked at Kyouhiko and her expression turned serious. Little ghost, you have strong ideas and talents. The learning and development of many techniques are accompanied by great risks. You need to improve your foundation and knowledge. Yes, I'll try my best, Jingyan said. Knowledge is valuable, and some knowledge is treasured by various schools like secret techniques. It is not something he can learn just because he wants to. Tsunade nodded and said nothing more. She looked at Uchiha and her expression softened. Hong, you and Shizune have the same problem. Your physical foundation is too poor, but your talent in chakra control is stronger than Shizune's. If you really want to be a medical ninja, you must make up for the basics of medical ninja. Being a medical ninja doesn't just require knowing how to use ninjutsu. Uchiha nodded. I have been learning recently. Well, I'll have Shizune give you her notes later so you two can learn from each other. After saying that, Tsunade stretched. I haven't relaxed my muscles for a long time. It's really tiring to fight with you 2 or 3 little guys. Let's go, exercise on your own. After saying that, she disappeared instantly. After a while, in the Hokage building, Tsunade knocked open the door of Saruto by Hiruzen's office. Tsunade. Saruto by Hiruzen was slightly stunned, but soon calmed down, smiled and asked her to sit down. Tsunade slammed the table very rudely, as if she was here to collect a debt. Old man, could it be that you have taken all of my second grandfather's notes? This one Saruto by Hiruzen's mouth twitched slightly, and then he coughed lightly. Those books have been sealed. I understand that some of the notes were sealed because they involved taboos, but why did many ordinary notes disappear? Were they sealed, or were they taken by someone and wanted to be his own? Tsunade spoke very directly, but she did not point the finger directly at the third Hokage, but instead directed her criticism at Danzo. Saruto by Hiruzen found it difficult to respond. Although he and Danzo are disciples of the second Hokage, strictly speaking, Tsunade is definitely more qualified to inherit the second Hokage's legacy. No, Danzo just thought that the second Hokage's things were precious, so it's safer to seal them in the Anbu. If you want to use them, I'll ask him to take them out. Which parts do you want? Bring the more basic ones here. You won't have any use for them anyway. Tsunade was unceremonious. Saruto by Hiruzen nodded, and he understood the other party's purpose. That kid. I was confused when writing, and subconsciously thought that he was a generation older than the protagonist. I have corrected it now. End of this chapter. Alright legends, that's it for today. Like, subscribe, and I'll meet you in the next audiobook.